The Dayton Public School District is a thriving school system serving students from preschool through high school. With more than 12,000 students across 27 schools, parents can feel confident that their students will receive a high-quality education and graduate prepared for lifelong success. Here are 11 reasons you will love Dayton Public Schools. All DPS preschools are 5-star rated by the Ohio Department of Education and are free for students. All 1st through 3rd grade classrooms implement the district's successful double teaching model to increase academic achievement and close gaps. All 4th through 6th grade classrooms provide high-dosage tutoring for students, which reduces class size and provides students with more individualized instruction. Students of all ages have career exploration opportunities to help them learn about different career paths and develop an understanding of what is required to make their dreams a reality. DPS has one-to-one technology, which means all students have access to a Chromebook. DPS is home to one of the world's 41 Challenger Learning Centers, where students get hands-on experience with science, math, engineering, design, and learn about space travel and exploration. The district offers music and art opportunities at all grade levels. Middle and high school students can even take part in an all-city band to perform with students from across the district. Middle school students can participate in Project Lead the Way classes to explore STEM concepts and learn valuable life skills. These courses are designed to teach students to be problem solvers, critical thinkers, and team players. The district cares about both students and their families. Family resource coordinators are in many schools to help connect families to any resources they may need. And student resiliency coordinators and student behavior therapists are available to any student who may need counseling or support. The district offers 2 career technology centers to prepare students for college and careers. At Ponance CTC and Meadowdale CTC, students can choose from dozens of pathways and begin working toward industry credentials in their chosen field. All high school students can participate in College Credit Plus courses, which allows them to earn college credits for free during high school. These credits transfer to public colleges and universities after graduation. Students can even earn an associate degree while in high school. Learn more and enroll today at DaytonPublic.com.
My name is Kevin G. Jewett. I work for Dayton Public Schools. I am a bus driver and OBI trainee at this time. When I joined DPS, it was at a time where me as a bricklayer, I couldn't find a job, and they have kept me working ever since I got here. Long as you have integrity, they trust you. There's primarily integrity and trust. Long as you are fair about that, they're fair with you. A bus driver to me means freedom and integrity, issues that I can be trusted. And you can trust me with your children. The ones I carry, they know I'm gonna treat them, and their parents know that I'm gonna treat them just like I treat my kids. Zero tolerance, bullying, and whatever. And that I have their best interest. After all, they're the most precious cargo. I love driving. I never thought I would love driving, but I love driving, and I pick any kid up anywhere. And once they're in my care, you best believe I'm gonna do my best to protect them.
Hello DPS students, I'm Anthony Green and I attend Ponance Career Technology Center. Today I am going to help you learn how to use the Greater Dayton Regional Transit Authority, also known as RTA, for your school transportation. From finding a route to riding the bus and arriving safely at your destination, this video will cover everything you need to know to begin using the RTA today. Let's get started. Finding a route. There are several different ways to find a route to take you to and from school or any other location. If using your phone, find your Google or Apple Maps and type in your destination. Change your mode of travel to taking a bus, which you can do by tapping the bus icon. From here, your phone will display your route from walking to the bus stop, riding the bus, and exiting the bus, and walking to your final destination. This same process can take place on a desktop computer. Simply go to Google Maps, type in your destination, change the mode of travel to a bus, and view your route options. If your starting location is not currently filled in, you can type in the address of the location you will be starting from. You can also download the free transit app to view routes. Type in your current location and your destination to view the RTA route you should take. The transit app will also tell you when you should start walking to the bus stop in order to arrive just before the bus pulls up. If you would like to view each RTA route schedule in detail, you can visit the RTA website at iRideRTA.org. From there, select routes and click on each route to view a map, stop locations, and arrival times. Waiting at the bus stop. It is good practice to get to your bus stop at least 5 minutes before the bus is scheduled to arrive. While waiting on the bus, it is important to make yourself visible so the bus driver knows you're waiting. A good way to do this is to stand up and wave when you see the bus approaching. Remember to be fare ready by having your pass in your hand before boarding the bus. Entering the bus and paying for your ride. When you enter the bus, you will need to tap your pass on the payment reader. The passes are good for an unlimited number of rides in a 31-day period. The 31-day period starts the first time you tap your pass. If you receive a new pass before the old one expires, do not activate the new pass until you need it. This will ensure you continue to have unlimited rides throughout the entirety of the next month. It is your responsibility to remember when you activated your pass. To do this, you can mark the date of your first scan and expiration date on the card. DPS is providing students with monthly passes. Passes will be distributed at each high school on a monthly basis. Please speak to your principal if you need one. Note that these cards will not be reloadable and expire after 31 days. Riding the bus. Please take a seat or stand and hold onto a handrail or safety strap while the bus is moving. If you're standing, please be sure to stay behind the yellow line at the front of the bus for your safety. Other rules of the road include no smoking of any kind, no eating or drinking. If you bring food or drinks on board, they must be in a sealed container. While listening to music, wear headphones. Refrain from speaking on cell phones. Customers must not use profanity or engage in disruptive behavior. Vandalism of RTA property is not tolerated. Customers must keep the aisles clear to allow others to pass. If there is limited seating, please allow older customers and those with disabilities to sit down near the front of the bus. Please follow these rules and any other instructions provided by your driver. If rules are not followed, passengers may be removed from the bus. Exiting the bus. When the bus is approaching your stop, you must signal to the driver that you need off by pulling the cord on the side of the bus. Pull the cord after you pass the stop just before the one you need. When exiting the bus, please exit through the rear door to allow people entering the bus to use the front door. Remember that traffic does not stop for transit vehicles. Never cross in front of the bus. And obey all traffic laws and watch for oncoming traffic after exiting. Please exercise caution while crossing roads and intersections. If you have additional questions about using RTA, please visit iRideRTA.org.
Welcome Stadium, this is a great place to host special events, and especially when it's an event for Edwin C. Moses Relays. We had a good mix of teams from all over the place. We actually had a team from West Virginia, some Cleveland schools, some Cincinnati schools, so it's always good to have different competition and to be able to share our home with a variety of people.
Well, it was amazing because this is their first time being able to compete on the facilities track, and they found out it's a lot different than before. It's a lot faster than before, and not only that, but to experience having a gentleman who never lost a race in 10 years here to watch them and to provide them with medals. It was an amazing experience.
The Dayton Relays, as it was called, we should really work to build that up because it was one of the top track meets in the state of Ohio. People from all around the state would come, all the best schools, all the best relays. You know, this is a prime facility, and we need to get kids more involved in sports on a competitive level as well as sports on the academic level.
Hello, my name is Kamaya Hilton Thomas, and I am a senior at Stiver School for the Arts. I started taking College Credit Plus classes in the 8th grade up until this year, where I recently got my associate's degree before my high school diploma. I started with very few classes, and then I just kept growing and growing. Many people recommended I keep a small course load, but I kept leveling up and taking as many as I could. So I kept maxing those hours out, and over the summer I took 16 or 15 credit hours so I can just be one step closer to getting my degree. Not many people have an associate's degree. Straight out of high school, some people, go start working without a degree, or maybe they even take a gap year or go to school. So to have that one thing done and accomplished is great. It's gonna save me a tremendous amount of money. Even though I have gotten a scholarship, it also helps though, because it's that scholarship is only 4 years. So if I go over that time, or I need to help and take other courses, I have that done. And that actually has helped me, because that's basically a free degree that I can lean back on.
Oh, Mr. U? Right.
Can you pass those down to the treasurer, please?
Treasurer. Hey, Superintendent. I feel like I'm Good Morning America.
Let me take your picture.
You do? With that?
Dayton Public Schools. I think we should all have cups for their day.
Give me a smile. Now give me your morning show.
My morning show smile? Listen, I gotta embody something.
Let me get this out
here.
the picture.
Okay, I think I'd be real casual on the morning show, right?
You're so funny. I like it.
Gosh, what is it? 9, 5, 6.
Yeah, I know. There's so much I don't understand there.
Front row. So what happens when you get here late? Listen, I want to tell you something. That's what happens when you're late. That's what happens when you're late. Look, I have a new thing.
Okay, I was waiting for you before I smacked it down.
Okay. Mr. Hughes going to talk to you.
You three ready down there?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where is Will?
He's coming through.
He's coming through right now.
You guys all ready?
He's
Right
ready,
there? down there, too?
ready.
As soon as he comes up, I'm going to get us started.
Oh, Mr. U. So you gave me this, you said this came from him to me?
No, he passed it out to all of us. You just want to sit up here, so I just thought I'd just share.
Oh, no.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started because I'm not trying to hold people. Now call to order the August 15th business meeting. Madam Treasurer, may we have a roll call?
President Goodwin,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
He is walking up to his seat.
okay. Mr. Sampson,
Present.
Ms. Wick,
Present.
Dr. Pickett,
Present.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Present.
Mr. Lacey.
Here.
7 present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, pursuant to section 12122G of the Ohio Revised Code, I move that this board go into executive session. This meeting is being held to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal of a public employee, and to prepare for and review negotiations with employees regarding their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacey.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Does that need to go to the treasurer?
Yeah. I'm in Texas.
All right.
The Dayton Public School District is a thriving school system serving students from preschool through high school. With more than 12,000 students across 27 schools, parents can feel confident that their students will receive a high-quality education and graduate prepared for lifelong success. Here are 11 reasons you will love Dayton Public Schools. All DPS preschools are 5-star rated by the Ohio Department of Education and are free for students. All 1st through 3rd grade classrooms implement the district's successful double teaching model to increase academic achievement and close gaps. All 4th through 6th grade classrooms provide high-dosage tutoring for students, which reduces class size and provides students with more individualized instruction. Students of all ages have career exploration opportunities to help them learn about different career paths and develop an understanding of what is required to make their dreams a reality. DPS has one-to-one technology, which means all students have access to a Chromebook. DPS is home to one of the world's 41 Challenger Learning Centers, where students get hands-on experience with science, math, engineering, design, and learn about space travel and exploration. The district offers music and art opportunities at all grade levels. Middle and high school students can even take part in an all-city band to perform with students from across the district. Middle school students can participate in Project Lead the Way classes to explore STEM concepts and learn valuable life skills. These courses are designed to teach students to be problem solvers, critical thinkers, and team players. The district cares about both students and their families. Family resource coordinators are in many schools to help connect families to any resources they may need. And student resiliency coordinators and student behavior therapists are available to any student who may need counseling or support. The district offers 2 career technology centers to prepare students for college and careers. At Ponitz CTC and Meadowdale CTC, students can choose from dozens of pathways and begin working toward industry credentials in their chosen field. All high school students can participate in College Credit Plus courses, which allows them to earn college credits for free during high school. These credits transfer to public colleges and universities after graduation. Students can even earn an associate degree while in high school. Learn more and enroll today at DaytonPublic.com.
This key is a key to the city. Now, I could say it opens every door. That would be not telling the truth. But it's symbolic of someone that we want to make sure that they feel welcome every time they come to Dayton.
Today was a day of excitement and enthusiasm and an inspiration for kids. Our goal is to inspire kids by doing and experiencing science in really fun ways. So if we can make science fun and exciting, they're going to gravitate towards those things, and then they're going to be like, oh, I need to do more of that, and I want to try that. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to try new things, because science is all about learning, exploring, and really just investigating the world around us. Being able to come out to a school like Roosevelt Elementary and working with Dayton Public Schools is really important, because I want these kids to see and I want them to experience science in a way they've never experienced it before. Make it fun, make it big, make it explosive, but most importantly, make it relatable to them. And that's what this whole program is all about. What we got to do today, what I got to do on stage, doing all my demonstrations, was fun. But the engineering design challenge, where kids are building and they're testing and they're figuring things out, that's what science is really all about, is figuring out, oh, that didn't work. How do I make it better? Or, oh, let's try that again, but let's change it just a little bit. That variable needs to change. So watching them build their towers and actually figuring out how to get that ping pong ball as high as they possibly could, that's amazing. And you could just see their wheels working the whole time. And that's what this is all about, is getting them to be okay with trying it, but most importantly, with not getting it right the first time.
My name is Brandon Stillimer, and I'm the automotive teacher here at Ponitz. I'm actually a Ponitz automotive graduate. After I graduated, I went to the military and became a mechanic for the military. After that, I came back and went to college and ended up coming here to teach at the program I graduated from. In this program, I learned the basic skills like tools, theories, and principles of how brakes work, how engines operate.
My sophomore year, we took motors. We broke them all down, put them right back together. My junior year, we did electrical. I loved electrical.
Pretty much the basics right now: oil change, tire rotations, tire changes, how engines work, performance.
They're learning how to use the machines in here, the lifts, tools, and everything. I've learned how to break down engines, fix cars. I've learned how to do electrical. I'm in electrical now.
This is my first time working on a project car, like kind of by myself, but it's not a one-man job at all. You need a team.
So I think the biggest benefit is not only do they get to learn at an earlier age, but also they can take the skills they learned and get employment earlier. This program, we partner with a lot of really good partners, and we can get them into job placement. They're starting to build their networking earlier in life than wait until later.
Everybody can't teach you how to work on a car. Our teachers are here for it, to break down and show us what really goes into a car besides the basics.
It's cool to see the progression from when I was here to what the district is now, and then what we're looking forward in the future.
Dayton Public Schools have prepared me for my future to be successful in my automotive industry, and strive for my dreams.
I want to end up opening my own business and helping other people who are in need of cars or just working on the cars.
Through our advisory committee, we're finding out what the real world needs, and we're building those technicians to get them into what is the current need for the industry.
My name is Kevin G. Jewett. I work for Dayton Public Schools. I am a bus driver and OBI trainee at this time. When I joined DPS, it was at a time where me as a bricklayer, I couldn't find a job, and they have kept me working ever since I got here. Long as, you know, you have integrity, they trust you. You know, there's primarily integrity and trust. Long as you're fair about that, they're fair with you. A bus driver to me means freedom and integrity issues, that I can be trusted, and you can trust me with your children. The ones I carry, they know I'm gonna treat them, and their parents know that I'm gonna treat them just like I treat my kids. You know, zero tolerance, bullying and whatever, and that I have their best interest. After all, they're the most precious cargo. I love driving. I never thought I would love driving, but I love driving, and I pick any kid up anywhere. And once they're in my care, you best believe I'm gonna do my best to protect them.
I'm Stacy Schweikart, the CEO of Learn to Earn Dayton. Tonight at the Power of Place celebration here in Northwest Dayton, we announced a major project in partnership with Dayton Public Schools to create a learning garden at Fairview Elementary.
This is a community-inspired event and location. My name is John Steinbrenner. I'm one of the designers at Grunder Landscaping, and I'm just lucky enough to be a part of bringing it to life.
I am so happy to be here tonight, and I want to thank everyone that's been a part of this process. The Northwest Dayton project is such a great opportunity for Northwest Dayton residents. Here at Fairview Elementary in particular, we're going to have a beautiful garden thanks to this group that envisioned it for our students. So I'm so excited. I'm so thankful for the partnership with Learn to Earn Dayton, with the Northwest Dayton Project, with Omega CDC, with all of our partners that have made this possible. Grunder Landscaping, everyone has made this possible, and I'm so thankful for that. College career and military signing day is extremely important because students are making a commitment to themselves and their future. And what we try to do is encourage them to choose something that they're going to do that they'll move on to after graduation. And it's really an important commitment that they're making to themselves. So we want to make sure that they understand that they have a support system in the Dayton Public Schools and in the community in case they need resources and in case they need help. We're here to support them because they are always part of DPS. Our high schools are very, very comprehensive. Any student that goes through any one of the Dayton Public School high schools has that opportunity to make those choices and to be educated and prepared for any career path that they make.
Remember, we tell you before, there are 4 reasons why you vote. For candidates or issues that benefit you, your livelihood, your family, and your community. No other reason. You don't vote because someone is tall or short, black or white, male or female, Republican or Democrat. You vote those 4 reasons. That takes care of you and your family and your community.
So today is the first time I'm going to be voting for my family. My family is from Mexico, so I'm the first generation from my family. So right now, this is everybody in the background is voting for the first time. It was a very amazing experience. I like that we were crossing like around the bridge, and it was just a very powerful moment where it's like your first time, and you're going to have that as your memory to like, oh, I remember I have to cross the bridge to like vote. If you want to fix something that is really injustice, then your vote really does matter. Like every person votes matters. Voting for the first time is kind of like exciting because I get to go home and then just tell my parents that I just voted, and then they just seem proud of me because they never experienced like something like this of voting before. So I'm like kind of like giving them like a chance to like, oh, if like something is wrong, I'm able to like make the change.
If we catch them right in kinder and first grade, we can do a lot of good work. Hi, my name is Dr. Nikki. I am an educator. I work with teachers and kids around the country, and I write a lot of books. I've been working in classrooms doing guided math as well as looking at energizers. And because there's so much research that says kindergarten, first grade, all of that math is foundational to reading and to math. There's long-term studies that look at what kids were doing in kindergarten with math.
It's so important for kids to build number sense and understand how to play with numbers, especially at an early age, so that they understand that math is about thinking, not just getting answers. I'm Dr. Allison Mello, and I'm a former assistant superintendent, former math specialist, classroom teacher, and curriculum director, and now I'm a full-time math consultant. I'm really excited to be in Dayton Public Schools and working with the classroom teachers, showing them some different routines to get kids excited about learning math.
Going into the schools, I see teachers that are enthusiastic, that are ready to learn, that are already doing wonderful things, and that are trying to improve their practice. So my time here at Dayton Public has been wonderful because I love working with teachers and students.
The Dayton Public School District has 5 middle schools that prepare students for high school and beyond. Edwin Joel Brown, Wright Brothers, and Wagaman are standalone middle schools, while Belmont and Stiver School for the Arts are both middle and high schools. A focus on continued academic excellence is present in all middle schools. In addition to their standard English language arts classes, all students take a reading course designed to ensure they leave middle school with the mastery they need to excel in high school. In addition to traditional subjects, Project Lead the Way courses are available to middle school students who want to explore STEM concepts while also learning valuable life skills. Classes like design and modeling, medical detectives, and automation and robotics introduce students to engineering design, the medical field, and more. Project Lead the Way courses are designed to teach students how to be problem solvers and critical thinkers while engaging in hands-on projects. In DPS middle schools, career exploration experiences continue with an emphasis on how students can form a path to their goals. Students spend time learning about career opportunities and the career technical education pathways offered in DPS high schools because it is important for middle school students to consider which one would be the best fit for them. All middle schools have caring, dedicated teachers and staff, along with guidance counselors to help students pick the best classes and high schools for their needs. By choosing DPS middle schools, you are choosing to set your student up for academic and lifelong success. Learn more and enroll today at DaytonPublic.com.
I was just overwhelmed by the number of people who came out here today to welcome us and the number of students who have already applied to Central State University to receive the free tuition their first year at Central State University. Our goal is to make sure that we're reaching out to our local schools and certain schools like Paul Laurence Dunbar, Principal Henry, who is here as a graduate of Central State University, and we want to make sure that we're providing as much access for those students as possible. And we know that the cost of an education has increased. Central State University is one of the most affordable institutions in the country, and we know that many students are first generation. Many of them come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and we want to make sure that we're providing that access with this free tuition.
I feel very excited. You know, it's a great opportunity. It's really motivational as far as, you know, going to school and, you know, because some children might not even was applying for college, you know, knowing that you might go for free, that right there just motivates you to do well and, you know, do better, especially when they stated that it would be over the years to come, you could still, you know, go to college for free. That's a possible 4-ride free college. That right there is an amazing opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity. So, you know, it motivates me to go to Central State. It motivates me to keep my grades up, you know, and stay on top of everything so I can continue to get that free college.
The beautiful
Can you all refresh your computers? Can you all refresh your computers? Let the record show that the Board of Education of the Dayton City School District has just completed an executive session during which it considered the appointment, employment, and dismissal of a public employee and prepared for reviewed negotiations with employees regarding their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. I move that we exit executive section. Is there a second?
Second.
Move the second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Wick?
Yes.
Dr. Pickett?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. Dr. Lawrence, I believe we have 3 presentations.
We do, Dr. Goodwin. Let's bring up first Dayton Public Schools Foundation to present checks to teachers.
Can you hear me? Okay, all right. Good evening, Board President Goodwine, Vice President Smith, Interim Superintendent Lawrence, Treasurer Abraha, board members, cabinet, and the attending and watching public. Thanks for the opportunity to come before you. I'm Nancy Nerney, former Dayton Public Schools board member, present chair of the board of the DPS Foundation. We are a nonprofit under the umbrella of the Dayton Foundation, so sometimes people get us mixed up. As you know, our organization's goal is to advance the success of all DPS students and only DPS students, supporting the efforts of you and the district superintendent to accomplish that. This year, we again made available our classroom grants of up to $500 to all DPS teachers and $1,500 to all DPS principals. Because of the generosity of your employee donors and our community donors, we were able to announce our most teacher grants ever this spring with almost $10,000. It is our 8th annual round of offering grants. This year, we bring you 17 grants from innovative teachers and principals finding creative ways to reach their students with materials not able to be provided by the district. Our grants have been diverse, from cooking classes to field trips to flexible seating options, enabling students to find their best spot to stay calm, focused, and productive. We are grateful to the district's HR, PIO, and teaching and learning departments and the Treasurer's Office for their support in implementing these grants. We are pleased to now have permission to have a donor button for us on the DPS website alongside yours. We truly believe that these grants from our donors enable us to directly impact the success of DPS students. As our students grow, so does our community and the value of its future citizens as they give back to our community. I'd like now to present our foundation board. This is Michael, and oh, there they are. And they're going to help me give out the certificates. Thank you for your guidance of our school district. We look forward to continuing to serve you and all of our students. Would you be willing to come down and shake their hands? I don't know how many people are here, but this last one is bad news. No, yeah. And they're right in order. Well, unless you like. So we just paraphrase them by saying, Trina Collier for exploring the community.
Do I say the school?
No, it's up to you, but I don't think it's too much time. So just that and that. And that. This one, that's the school, she's a principal.
We don't know how many are here, but we're going to call their names in honor of them. Trina Collier, she did explore the performing arts and accompanying proper etiquette. Thank you. We have Julia Hurst, learning through play. Shelley Murphy will take multiple field trips to study the rich history of our city of Dayton. Those were our 3 school principal ones. Next, we have Shayna Atkins. Okay. What's this name? Eunice Breivik. Is Eunice Breivik here? Vanessa Caruso or Carasso.
So go ahead. Make sure to include the orange part.
Oh, okay. Kristen Dittman. She did they're gonna do the Boonshoff Museum of Discovery for hands-on STEM learning. Who, right here? Yeah, she's not here. Caitlin is not here, is that what you're saying? You said no?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Remember, she doesn't
Deidre.
hear anymore either.
Oh, okay. Go on down
Okay.
there.
Destiny Ati, maybe? She did Visit Young's Dairy Farm. Victoria Pomaleri and Jill Beitman. They're doing core, what is that? Phonological awareness. Is Grace Rudolph here? She did phonemic awareness. What's this name? Ruth Naomi. You're gonna have to help me.
Okay. Ruth Naomi Semprit Marrero, and she did Montessori learning materials.
Melissa Sharp, invent kits with tools, cooperatively construct a project representing scenes from novels. Alicia Sims, using a variety of Montessori pen maps. Rebecca Stroll, a personal copy of a study novel. Thank you. And Lillian Weaver, a musical assembly program from Allwood.
I'll take those and I'll send them to you. Thank you. We're going to get in this picture, right? We're going to get in this picture, right? So find your place. One last remark. Most of the board members and several of the public have been invited to our fundraiser. We are the Dayton Public Schools Foundation. You can look for us online to find out more about our fundraiser, which will be on the 13th of September at the Troll Pub. Come and get lots of snacks and food and big smiles and lots of good stories about how we're helping Dayton Public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. Our next presentation?
Yes, today we're going to do some 7 through 12 data, and then after that we'll have some conversations around how we can make some changes to improve the data. Thank you, Ms. Clark, for coming up.
Good evening, Board President Dr. Goodwine, Board of Education, Treasurer Braha, Superintendent Lawrence. So today I'll be discussing specifically the high school student performance data. Go ahead. So we'll talk about the Ohio State test specifically just for high school, which are Algebra 1, Geometry, Government, American History, Biology, English Language Arts 2, and English Language Arts 1 over a couple of years. And then we'll talk about it with the performance index in comparison to the Urban 8, and we added Springfield City, and I'll explain why we added Springfield City in there. So high school, all of those subjects lumped together. This is the performance in percent of proficient and higher over the last several years. So from 2018 all the way through the current year, with the highest area of proficiency in 2022-2023 being in U.S. government. Just numerically, what that equates to is the change over time. That column is specifically from 2022 to 2023, and that is just Dayton at this point. Performance index, really, what that allows us to do is make the data comparable for all schools and across the district and across the state. It assigns a value to each performance category. Students who are not tested have a 0 value. If a student performs in the limited category, they have a 0.3. Students performing in a basic category have a 0.6. Proficient is a 1.0. Accomplished is a 1.1. Advanced is a 1.2. And advanced plus is a 1.3. So we will take the percent of students in a performance category, multiply by 100 plus, and then multiply by the value of the category. So the reason we added Springfield is this is a chart of districts that are most comparable to Dayton. And the first 3 you see are actually part of the Urban 8, Toledo, Akron, and Canton. The fourth one is Springfield City, who's not part of the Urban 8, but compares to us in areas similarly as the other Urban 8 do. The only difference, or I would say the biggest difference, is the racial minority. And they are lower than the other districts. However, they are closer in demographic, or closer demographically to us, or geographically, I should say. So that's why we added them to the analysis. So in 2018, 2019, I know last time I was up here, you guys asked for a comparison, including the Urban 8. So in 2018, 2019, Dayton performed lower in all of the tested subjects in high school than the state, other than U.S. government. Cincinnati's test scores showed that they are achieving at higher rates in all high school tested subjects. Dayton had performed the lowest in the 2 tested high school math areas, which are algebra and geometry. 2018-2019 showed that Akron was also performing well in the tested areas. You will see that that is not the case in subsequent years. Cleveland also looks to be outperforming Dayton in several areas. Springfield outperforms Dayton in all areas except ELA 2 and geometry. And Columbus starts in 2018 and 2019 well below the other Urban 8. However, things change in subsequent years. So 2019 and 2020, this is when we didn't have to necessarily, this is the year that we left school almost during that testing time. So some schools took tests and some schools didn't take tests. Most everybody tested, but the percent of tests were not necessarily consistent. So there was a large drop for Dayton. Other schools performed similarly in geometry, except for Columbus and Cincinnati. And in this year, testing was optional. So 2021, this is when we returned to school. Dayton is in the middle of the urban 8 in all of the test scores. Cincinnati and Akron outperformed Dayton in Algebra 1, Government, and U.S. History. Columbus does well in geometry and biology and are outperforming the urban 8 and the state average. Toledo's doing well in ELA 1 and American history, and Springfield performs well in U.S. history, beating the urban 8 and the state average. Dayton outperforms Akron and Canton in geometry and close to Cincinnati in geometry. One of the things you will note is we performed in most areas, we performed higher in 2021 than we did in 2019-20, in most areas. If we then move on to 21-22, Cincinnati is performing better than the urban 8 in almost all the test areas. Dayton is performing the lowest in Algebra 1 than the rest of the urban 8 and the state. Dayton seems to be performing lower in almost every area. Springfield is outperforming Dayton. Toledo's performance index is higher than ours, and Cleveland as well. So now we go on to 22-23, and this is just Dayton's performance index for each test. The reason it's only Dayton is because no one else's data is available yet for us to get. So this is our performance index by test, with our lowest test being English Language Arts 1, and that's because we only had 8 students test. So that really is negligible. However, in the other test, math is a very large weakness. Our students, on average, perform at a limited area in government and American history on average. Now that means there are a lot of kids who are not performing in that manner as well. But the average is approximately in that limited range. It's not noted here, but we do now have students who are performing in the Advanced Plus category at a few schools. If you look at the trends in the performance index difference, this was very telling. You can actually see those differences numerically and how significant they were from spring 17-18 to spring 18-19, where we were growing and we were improving, and how everyone else was growing and improving similarly. And then spring 19 to spring 21, so kind of encompassing that COVID year in there and not really taking that data. And then the decline that happened. Now, did we decline as much as everybody else? We didn't. However, we also haven't recovered as much as some places, not every place. So this has some implications for us, not only as a district, but also for our community. Our decrease in test scores can include some economic, some social, mental and physical health, as well as implications for both individuals and our community, which is really important. And obviously, math is a significant issue. So in our area, we have so many organizations and companies that have STEM field relationships that are very important. And the arts support STEM. There is a relationship between those two things. So what questions do you have?
Thank you for the presentation. Go ahead, Board Member Dr. Pickett.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a question. Since we added Springfield, Ohio, because there's certain similarities, Do we know how many other students are English learners? Because we have one out of 5 of ours are learning English.
I can look at that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And then, which I may.
Go ahead.
Okay, the big drop, of course, for COVID. Just to remind everyone and me, we had pretty much online learning throughout the district, even during COVID, or were we completely closed for a while?
So we were closed for a while.
From March to the
March
end?
13th to March 1st of the next year.
Yes.
And then we opened up with just online for...
So we opened up with online. There was some hybrid in some buildings where some students came to school, but there was always that online option for families.
And so our students came back into the buildings for the most part?
I would not say for the most part.
Okay.
I would say some families chose to come back into the buildings. And I'm talking in the early 2021 school year.
Okay. Thank you. But I guess we're not really sure exactly how the other districts handled that, unless you know off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head, I do not know, but I can actually find out.
Because I'm thinking that some of them were closed longer, but I'm not sure.
So I can find out how other districts handled COVID, the return from COVID, I should say.
All right, that's all I have.
Board Member Witt?
Thank you. Thank you for this information, Ms. Clark. Based on the high school performance index for 22-23, I know that the other numbers aren't reported and reflected yet, but our numbers are reflected, and in comparison to those currently versus last year, can you give me an idea as to what you think that looks like?
I believe it's going to be lower.
Thank you. And I think also, I mean, for me, this information just reflects a strong call to action, you know, for us to make some, I'm not going to use the word radical, but some big changes. So I'm really looking forward to all the work that this new administration that we have is doing this year to share this information and also create a space where I know we're going to have improvement. So I'm looking forward to the work, and now's the time. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question, Madam President. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your presentation. I have a question about, I believe it's the 4th slide, high school proficiency levels over time. I've seen this in a couple of presentations, and I have a question about the way that the data is arranged. I will tell you, when you look at the proficiency rate comparisons and you have school year 23, then 22, then 21, my inclination is to read left to right, but having the years stacked backwards, is there a reason why they're 23, 22, 21 instead of 21, 22, 23? Just logistically, it always trips me up when I see the numbers arranged that way.
You mean just to reverse them?
Yes.
Oh, I can totally.
I wasn't sure if there was a reason why you did that I was not aware of.
No, just to go sequentially from the beginning to the end.
Yeah. If there's not a reason and if there's no objection, I think it reads easier, and people's natural inclinations to read it chronologically left to right as well is a little bit easier.
I can totally do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Any other questions? I just have one for you. At what point is the data pulled? Like when is the period that tests all this data that is pulled? Is it in the spring?
So the 22-23 data is from the spring OST.
Okay.
And so this data will be released by ODE in October to the public.
Okay. And do we also have preliminary data that kind of gives us an idea of how we're going to perform in the spring?
And that's kind of what this is. This is what has, we have not received a preliminary report card. This is our preliminary test data that I then take and analyze so that we can make instructional decisions.
Oh, well, let me rephrase. I mean, from the fall of the first, second quarter of how we're prepping for the spring test, do we have an internal data point for ourselves that's kind of predictive of how we are going to perform?
We do. We have a map that students actually will start taking next week.
Okay.
And they have 2 weeks to, I think we gave them 2.5 weeks to take that test at the beginning of the year. And so that's administered in 3rd through high school in math, English, and science. And so we will then take that information. It tells us how students are starting, and we can look longitudinally and where we can predict them to finish up. They will then take that same test in the winter. For the elementary students, actually through middle school, it's in December. The high schoolers take it in January.
Okay, so my question is surrounding when we get that midpoint data in the winter, and even what we've seen in the last 3 years, since that's what's represented on here, has that midpoint data kind of shown the trend towards this is kind of predictive of where we're going to end up at?
It has.
Okay.
One of the things when I started this role, one of the things I did was put together a dashboard that actually compared MAP to OST performance. And how that trended over time for both at the grade level and then for cohorts of students.
Okay, so this year at that midpoint, because we
will be able to see how we are trending. Yes.
Okay, and for us, like, is this? I don't think I recall if we've ever gotten a report back of kind of what those scores look like for us to see that midpoint of, because we've done some changes this year, and I would like to see if the changes are showing a better prediction of us scoring higher or even getting better in any type of way, because I mean, that's just one number of the overall environment, but of just being able to see that midpoint of what is telling us is happening with the academic piece, with the state standards, if that's possible.
Mm-hmm. Provided Dr. Lawrence would like me to provide that, I'm happy to.
Mm-hmm. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks, Ms. Clark. We appreciate you.
Okay, thank you. Your next presentation.
Next up is a presentation, systems to support evidence-based practices. So we've kind of given you the data picture, and it's one thing to talk about the data itself and whether it's good or not, but then the next question is always, so what, now what? And so we bring up to the mic Assistant Superintendent of Instruction and Leadership, my friend, my partner who's back, Lisa Miner.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Lawrence, Board President Dr. Goodwine, Treasurer Abraha, board members, viewing and visiting audience. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present to you this information. We've seen the data. We thank Ms. Clark for giving us such a comprehensive support, but your questions are noted. What are we going to do about it? What are the systems that we're going to set up to increase student achievement? And rapidly, we're trying to close the gap immediately from COVID and from all types of social, emotional trauma things that are happening. And so what I'd like to explain is not only what are the evidence-based practices that we will use, it's focused mainly on math, because that was one of the lowest, most critical points, but I'll also talk about setting the stage for achievement and what are the systems that have to be in place to raise student achievement. And so I'll open with that. So what are the components? Research shows that high-performing districts, these are the characteristics. They have a culture of high achievement. What does that mean? What does that look like? Many of us have walked in schools and you get a certain feel, a culture of high energy, of belief. Teachers have high efficacy, meaning they believe that what they are doing is going to work. That's one of the common characteristics of high-performing schools. Leaders believe in the teachers and what they're doing. That's what we need to have in every building. We also need to have quality professional development to cover all of the standards and the evidence-based practices that we're talking about today. That's a requirement. If teachers are not provided the high-quality, ongoing professional development that doesn't just happen initially and then it's gone, but ongoing feedback through job-embedded coaching and so forth, we must have that. High-quality instructional leadership, high-quality instruction, strong teacher collaboration, accountability and assessment. We see the data, but how are we held accountable to actually implement the practices that we're proposing? How are we looking at the assessment and the data to see what are we doing along the way? What are those benchmark assessments that will show us that we're making progress, or do we need to make adjustments? Parent and community engagement. I'll be sharing how best practices actually provide parent engagement workshops that talk about the work and making sure parents know exactly what their students must be able to do and how can you tell if they are. And positive school climate and culture. There's tons of research about it. We must have a positive school climate and culture in order to raise student achievement. And so I'll go into our effective instructional strategies. And many of these, the two, gradual release method and Marzano, is already built into our strategic plan. But how are we implementing it? Is it happening in every single classroom, every day? That's something we have a question about. And what systems of support are we going to provide so it does? So the gradual release method, mathematical teaching practices I'll go over today that was sponsored by the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. The What Works Clearinghouse that gives you a plethora of evidence-based practices as well as a description. What are Marzano's high-yield instructional strategies and how can we move the needle to raise student achievement? So a quick summary. Many of you may know already. I'll do a quick review of the gradual release method since it is part of our strategic plan. It's an instructional framework used to implement evidence-based practices that allow for the deeper understanding and transfer of knowledge. the teacher presents the information. We do the guided practice part. We do together. Students must know how to collaborate and work in teams to better understand what they're doing, and you do, making sure students have multiple ways to demonstrate their independent learning and understanding of the content. So mathematical practices is something that is in response to the shift in instruction that everybody should have already made with the Common Core and Ohio Learning Standards. It's learning the content for life instead of just for a short period of a test or so. So what are the practices that help the students that we must use to make sure that they meet these standards? Establishing mathematic goals to focus for learning. When we walk in a math class, we must know what the standards are. What's the learning target? What are the students going to be able to know and be able to do as a result of this instruction? Are we implementing tasks that promote reasoning and problem solving? Are we use and connect mathematical representations, facilitate meaningful mathematical discourse? There should be conversations in every math class and students explaining their work and how they got their work. Moving forward, elicit use of and evidence of students thinking through. They say whoever's doing the talking is doing the thinking, so moving away from that straight lecture period to students having conversations about the math. Building procedural fluency and conceptual understanding, supporting the productive struggle so that they're learning in mathematics, but it's not easy. They're having to struggle through and use those critical thinking skills to understand it. pose purposeful questions. Those are all things we should see in a highly effective math classroom. What are some of the research-based practices that we'll be emphasizing from our What Works Clearinghouse, which is an international resource that talks about best practices throughout the world? The main thing they discuss is the importance of problem solving in today's world. It's one of the most defining features in math instruction in successful countries such as Singapore and others. In a math class, we have to see them using data, technology, and the world of work. An example that has been done in this district is the Japanese lesson study, where teachers get together and they actually plan lessons, then watch each other teach, collaboration opportunities, and then they give each other feedback. This is my second day in the district, and I was able to look at the scores, and I found a classroom that had Algebra 1, 71% passing. So I had to run over there to Wright Brothers and find out what happened. When I talked to the administrators, they were describing exactly what the research shows, that the teacher is using data. She uses something called Desmos regularly in the classroom, and that is something that is used with the test. Well, her students do it ongoing all the time, so they're better prepared. There's a lot of discourse, question and answer, and using these strategies. They also do a lot of co-teaching, collaboration, and they also loop their students. So the teacher taught the same group 2 years in a row. So there's things that we can do. Although our scores are low, there are best practices that we can scale up. That will be part of the professional learning. We've got some master teachers or model teachers and model classrooms that we'll be able to draw from and give teachers opportunities for leadership. Other things mentioned that we should see in an effective math classroom: teachers that assist students in monitoring and reflecting on the problem-solving process, and they actually rate it whether there's strong evidence and moderate. Teach students how to use visual representations, expose students to multiple problem-solving strategies, and help students recognize and articulate mathematical concepts and notation. So Marzano, you've heard it many times, I'm sure, and what I did was provide what are those high-yield strategies. What does it look like in the classroom, and what does the research say? So the first one we'll discuss is identifying similarities and differences. It yields, if it's done consistently, remember we said implementing consistently on a daily basis, doing that will increase a percentile gain of 45 percentile gain. What does it look like in the classroom? You should see thinking maps, teach charts, Venn diagrams, compare and contrast organizers. What does the research say? Students should compare, classify, create metaphors, analogies, non-linguistic and/or graphic representations. So making sure our instructional leaders, remember that was one of the best practices of high performing, making sure they also know what that looks like. In a situation where they're implementing that, they would identify, we're looking for these practices this week, and then giving feedback to make sure it's actually happening in the classroom. Other high yield strategies: homework and practice. Review, what does it look like? Review learning for the day at home. We know about homework. What does the research say? Teachers should vary the amount of homework based on the student's grade level and keep parents involved. There are online resources that also provide practice sets for parents to link. So our parent and community engagement, making sure our parents know what resources are out there, and even our community partners that work with our students, whether it be at a community center or something like that. And we will be linking some of those websites to, some of those resources to our websites for our families this year, and making sure that Ms. Worley and some of the people that work with the parent engagement have this information to share with workshops. Using high-yield strategy of reinforcing effort and providing recognition. So are we giving feedback to the students, encouraging them, allowing them to share ideas and thoughts, and honoring their learning styles? What does the research say? Teachers should reward based on standards of performance and use symbolic recognition rather than just tangible rewards. This is a strategy that might be overlooked when you're talking about math, but this actually helps to build confidence and encourages motivation. There's something called resiliency skills that students need that lend itself towards high performance and success in life. And those two are addressed when we use this strategy in the classroom. Other resiliency skills of stress, how they respond to stress, and how they handle, what are their thoughts on education, well-being, and connectedness, and do they have a relationship with adults and their peers. Healthy relationships are also factors that impact student achievement. So some of these strategies will help with those skills. Non-linguistic representations such as visual tools, manipulatives, problem solving, diagrams, those are the things. Concept maps is what you'll see with that strategy. The research says students should create graphic representations, models, mental pictures, and drawings, and have hands-on activities. 27 percentile gain. So imagine if we consistently did these, how the numbers will go up as we implement this. Cooperative learning, we've heard about that. That's part of our gradual release, where they do the we do together. The research says teachers should limit the use of ability group and keeps the group small and apply strategies consistently and systematically. The next strategy is generating and testing hypothesis. What does that look like in the classroom? Thinking processes, constructive practices, investigate and explore. What does the research say? Students should generate and be able to explain and defend their hypothesis. So debating, talking about how did I get to the answer, and investigating. And so as we focus moving forward, what is our focus for implementation? And we will be laser focused in making sure that we're seeing these practices in the classrooms. And that's the alignment for setting the stage. We must provide high quality professional development, have instructional leaders that are providing the support, having a clear and defined curriculum that they're using, parent engagement, as well as some of the others we've mentioned. So what does the PD look like? Job-embedded coaching, lesson studies, model classrooms, access to our Institute of Educational Sciences, research practices, provide regular ongoing feedback strategically, and assess student achievement, seeing where we are over and over throughout. And that's our plan. Some of the plan of action that will address the math scores, as well as it will float into other areas, because these are best practices that can go across the curriculum. And I'll have a quote. To end, teaching is more a giving of right questions than giving of right answers. Questioning, discussing, critical thinking is the model for math classrooms. What questions do you have?
Thank you. Very thorough presentation. Dr. Pickett.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. When we talk about the Marzano strategies and we're talking about what we're doing, how are we going to make sure that this is executed with fidelity, since that was the concern that we had with Mind Play, right? Because this is as good as we're going to be executing it in the classroom. That was one question that I have. And also, are we adding the Six Sigma strategies and the Green Belt is it the Lean Greenbelt that the students do attached to the math classes as well?
I'm not familiar with the second part that and I'll have to become familiar with that. But the first question, I like that question because that's the bottom line. We know what the practices are. How do we know it's happening consistently throughout the district? Well, that's monitoring and feedback, actually going in the classroom and seeing it. We have our system set up so we can track, and because it's in our strategic plan, we have online systems that will track the data for the building leadership teams, so they're focused on it. Administrators are responsible for doing instructional rounds or giving classroom observations back to their teachers, and that should be happening regularly. So maybe we'll ask the teacher leader, what percentage of your teachers are consistently implementing these practices? Now, with that, you'd want to say, make sure the teachers have been trained and they know what you're looking for. So if we're looking for similarities and differences, you can do a sweep throughout the building. Yes, we've got all the teachers doing similarities and differences. Who needs more support with it? Where can we videotape a class that is a model classroom and do a movie night with teachers? That's where all of that happens. Those types of activities will guarantee that it's happening consistently throughout. But you've got to keep it in the forefront.
Right, thank you so much. And then just wanted to mention that Desmos is a great tool.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
great way to visualize what the students are trying to do. So I hope that we get to use Desmos more. Thank
Yes, that's one of the best practices. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I had a couple for you myself.
Yes.
Okay. I would like to know, Ms. Kidd, board docs look like it went down. Okay. In case anybody wondered, you can't click on anything else. Okay, my first one for you. On the mathematical piece right there, I had a question about how we listen to our teachers. I know you're on your second day here, right? And, you know, we're just gonna act like you've been here for a while, but day 2 here. When some of our mathematical teachers give us, I got feedback from somebody somewhere in this organization about how the kids interact in classrooms. And one of their complaints were that they're sitting at desks with paper and pens, and if they had like whiteboards and they were actively able to engage in that process, that would have been a game changer for that classroom learning. So my question more so is when our teachers kind of give this type of feedback to us, how are we going to actually follow up and see the things that we can do to assist them that we actually do?
Well, the first thing, we want to make sure, one of the best practices is to make sure our teachers have the curriculum materials or resources that they need to engage the child. So we're there to serve and make sure that they know. So we do have a system where we have lead teachers in every building and administrators. And if there's certain resources that, hey, I need this, we'll order it and do our best to get it or get as close as we can to it. We have to do that. And there's all kinds of engaging manipulatives. That's one of the best practices, using the tools and the right tools and making sure the kids can use the tools.
Okay.
So I would say just let us know if you hear that feedback so we can make sure we follow up.
Okay, I'm
with
giving you that feedback right now.
Okay.
That's what the teacher said.
Whiteboards for the
Whiteboards so they could be
teachers.
actively engaged doing problems. This is
Yeah.
one of those pieces.
That's
And then
great.
My second piece is I heard you mention homework in here, and we have schools that don't actively give homework. And that piece of us following up, because that seems to be a part of the overall success of the student, not only
Yeah.
what they're doing in the classroom, but what they're taking away from the classroom and doing outside of here. And just that follow-up piece of ensuring that that piece of the equation is there, because it seems like if you drop of any of the things that you put out there for us, that they're all necessary for the overall success of the child and the success of the methods that are being put in here. I wrote down here, my question was, are these new to us? And I'm gonna guess that these aren't new in the field itself. It's just, again, that fidelity isn't
Yeah, it's
That
not.
follow-through.
I know this Marzano Strategies is listed in the strategic plan, so I know it's been discussed in the district. I know that it's on the online system, a way for the building leadership teams to track it. So it's out there. The key is, just as we discussed, is it happening everywhere? Is it happening? Is it really happening? We don't want to talk about it. We want to do it. And we know every classroom won't be perfect initially, but that's where the practice and the feedback comes in. Because just imagine if we get half of our teachers to do it, the points that will go up. We just saw the data points.
And follow up to that one, to get that other half to try to buy into
Yeah.
this concept, are there any thoughts of kind of, again, that encouragement and those
Yeah.
incentives to really get that buy-in from our workforce of moving forward with
Right.
these processes and trying to really make this an overall success for our organization? Any thoughts of the, how
Well,
we
yeah,
motivate
what I would say, there's a lot of different ways to do it. A lot of teachers like positive feedback, identified, I'm an instructional star, or wow, they recognize that I'm really putting forth an effort, and we want to do that and show our appreciation. Another high-yield strategy is making sure teachers have opportunities and time to learn and time for collaboration. And teachers learning from other teachers is very effective as well. So the feedback, positive feedback, if it is something that is constructive, making sure it's done in a way that it doesn't demean a person or make them feel less than. It's just we're all learning. We're all learning and growing. We know it's okay not to know, but it's not okay not to grow. So we all want to grow and get better. And so helping the teacher know that this is just where we are and we're moving forward.
I appreciate that. If I could just add a suggestion to you, mainly because I heard it at church last week, and it was about because how people feel seen and heard is related to how they feel loved and all that. And although there is not a 5 love languages of education and validating people in that way, I do believe that there is some validity in learning how people's love language and how
Yeah.
they feel appreciated in that piece. So if you have not read that book, grab it on audio, because I know you got a lot to do right now.
Yeah.
And it's some things there to really help out with trying to get those individuals to really buy into and give what's going on a shot. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Thank you for that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is yours up? Can I look at yours? Okay, give us 1 second. Can we, okay. All right. Hearing of the bargaining units. Are there any bargaining units here to speak? All right, hearing of the public. Madam Treasurer, do we have anyone registered to speak?
Yes.
Okay, can you say the script? I don't know about her.
Joe Niles.
As she's getting our names together, as always, mind you to please state your name and address as you come to the mic. Mind you that you have 3 minutes to speak and that you should address the board as a whole through the president and not individual board members. Also, if you have anything to give to the board, please hand it through the treasurer. And also that it is not proper to speak on anything that is required to have an executive session, such as issues that have been discussed and personnel matters as well. Hand it back over to you, Dr. Goodwin, to give it back to the treasurer.
Go ahead, Madam Treasurer, our first speaker.
Joe Niles. Okay. Ashley Smith.
Good afternoon, or evening. I know you're tired of seeing me coming up here and complaining about the same issue. This issue has been going on for 5 months now, and the minor coaches have yet to receive an answer regarding retro pay. For the last several weeks, I have noticed several coaches within our district that are asking community members to help out with their either cheerleaders, football players, for personal items. Why? Because some parents can't pay for that right now. That retro pay would kind of help at this point to help out our student athletes, since some people are asking that we up our numbers, and I have seen that our numbers are growing within our district. So we are asking for some type of clarification. I know some people like she's just the one that's just going to voice her opinion. I'm speaking for everyone. Some may not come because they don't want to be blackballed, and we've seen that in this district. My second thing, a couple weeks ago, board member President Goodwine made a comment about people speaking about the board, and they have feelings. Your coaches in your community have feelings. Your teachers have feelings. So be mindful also when you speak on people in this district, your coaches, your teachers, that we got feelings too. Also, I believe the board should do a PD on professionalism, not just for coaches, teachers. This should be for everyone. I received the email today from the director of operations, and it was really unpleasant how she came at me and several other people on this email. That should be addressed. We need a professionalism PD, since this board wants PDs. I believe that needs to happen. Also for myself, I seen a quote on Facebook that said, "You cannot be in leadership and be nasty to folks and expect to be respected because of your title." That is some of you. And I ask that you really look at that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
David Ezrati.
David Ezrati, 113 Bonner Street. It's nice to hear talk about positive classroom culture. I think you guys need to work on positive board culture. What is a board supposed to do? Set standards, goals, objectives. High-level oversight of corporate activities and performance is a standard definition. Yet this board has failed. Look at the scores. Look at enrollment. Look at turnover. And yet 1 month in, the person who you put in charge after your previous dilettante screwed you, he still doesn't have a contract. That's one of your prime responsibilities, to hire a superintendent, even an interim. No contract yet, 30 days in. And you're already talking about hiring a search firm. Show me the proof that a search firm gets you good candidates, because it sure didn't 6 years ago. As to your qualifications to do this, watch your own board meetings. It's not very inspiring. In fact, in the military, we call it a cluster duck. The last meeting had the board president cut off another board member with a rule, put it in writing. No, you don't get to make up rules as you go along, although this board has done that over and over. Board members don't get involved in purchasing, from software to buses to hoodies. That is not your job. Board members aren't involved in hiring, except the superintendent, the treasurer, and the business manager. You don't even have a business manager right now. You're making him do twice the work without a contract. Board members aren't the United States Supreme Court, making rules for other people that don't apply to them. I'm starting to wonder if some of you have a motorhome that's paid for by some rich investor or something, because you're not making sense. Ms. Reinhardt has every right to ask that this board adheres to the same rules that apply to the staff. And yet, look at how you look to our community. Watch the difference between when your new superintendent goes out and talks to the community. I was glad to see Ms. Wick at his community brief. And it's really evident right away. This man's a leader, and the rest of you could take some lessons from him. This idea of having a search firm today on this agenda is beyond rude. It's disrespectful. Just like the fact that you went into executive session while you had all those people here wait for 80 minutes to give out some awards. Show some respect for your community, people. You had those people that waited, that was outstanding on their part, and there was no reason for it. You got to stop being rude to people. Thank you very much.
Chris Wiley.
Hello, Dr. Lawrence, Dr. Goodwine, board members. I'm Chris Wiley, 4129 Sylvan Drive, Dayton, Ohio. I'm a former DPS student, former DPS teacher, and currently a DPS parent. I'm coming to you this evening with regards, I have a child that was auditioning for Stivers. And I understand you just now stepping in, so we're trying to make things better moving forward. I had a child audition in the 2022 school year. We auditioned, never heard anything back. We auditioned again, never heard anything back. We reached out to Miss Dolly, who's no longer with us, and we never got a response from anybody. So we reached out to the school, and no response back from them. So I guess my concern to you all, I'm addressing is the fact that the follow-up. There's no follow-up. When kids are auditioning, whether my child got in or didn't get in, it's fine. But there's no follow-up, you know what I mean? If you apply for college, you get a letter that says you got in or you didn't get in. Also, the chart. If my child does not get in, I'd like to learn how things are being measured, the chart. So if they didn't get in, what do we need to work on? How's the points, how's the scale, you know what I mean? That's really my issue that I had. It was the follow-up that we reached out to higher administration. No one ever emailed back. No one ever called back. We called down to the school. Secretary says, well, I don't know who called you, or I don't know who to talk to. It's like a disconnect somewhere from the community to the school. And that's my concern this evening. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hugh.
Hey, thank you. Hey, thanks for your comments. I appreciate you. I saw a lot of people on my team writing while you were talking, and so we will definitely get back with you. And one of our focuses this year is customer service and making this a space where folks want to stay with us.
Good evening. Mr. Yu, 6615 Hedgington Square. And Dr. Lawrence, I hope you become the superintendent, because I know you're a great person and you were a great coach when you were the basketball coach at Meadowdale. Tonight, I want to talk about our Dayton elementary schools, and we have a lot of great elementary schools, and that's a good sign, because if students can do well in elementary school, they have a chance to graduate from high school. And that's due to great teaching by the Dayton teachers. And teachers work very hard. They have a tough job. They have to teach, discipline, call parents, and do lesson plans with about 40 pages of work now. So they work very hard to make our students be successful. And I'm hoping that when they have a contract come up, that the teachers will get a fair contract so they'll stay with the Dayton Public Schools. Teachers will never earn $1 million as a teacher, but if they're successful teaching their students might become millionaires. Teachers do not teach students. Teachers save students' lives, and that's important for our students. And finally, I want to tell you about a Dayton school called Westwood. Mrs. Baker doing an excellent job, and all the teachers love her. Mr. Robinson, he takes care of discipline. None of the students want to go to see him. You go in that office, and the secretaries are smiling and pleased to see you. The nurse is always smiling. And so I think that school is doing a great job. And they also have a very important person there, the gym teacher. And Dr. Lawrence, I don't think you'll know him, but his name is Larry Coomer.
Mr. Yu, thank you so much for your comments. It's always good to hear something positive, and thanks for telling the viewing public about my basketball coaching career. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Dr. Lawrence, your first recommendation.
First recommendation. I recommend approval of the following. We waive a 48-hour rule and approve the human resources agenda on Agenda A, Section A.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend approval to waive the 48-hour rule to present the following leave for payout for a former employee.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Who moved it?
Board Member Reiner. I'll second it. Any questions? Board Member? No questions? All right, maybe.
Just trying to clarify. So, because I'm trying to see if this is on here. Well, I see there. So, with this, is this Dr. Lawrence later on in the agenda, or are we having a vote immediately before we go into your recommendations on it, if the 48-hour waiver was passed?
Let's have a vote on it immediately.
All right. Okay, now I need to refresh again. That's all I was asking, but I can't see it online. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, your next recommendation?
I recommend approval of the following DEA after July 10th resignations.
No.
No.
Human resources.
Oh, HR, sorry about that. HR, DEA after 10th, after
No,
July 10th.
no, HR, just HR.
Oh, HR, thank you.
Okay. Item A,
Get me together.
6A.
6A.
Oh, I didn't refresh. I recommend the approval of the following human resources.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. Now your next
Now we're
recommendation.
here. I recommend approval of the following DEA after July 10th.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
No.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Mr. Sampson,
No.
Ms. Wick,
No.
Dr. Pickett,
No.
Ms. Reinhardt,
No.
Mr. Lacy.
No.
7 noes.
All right, your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following contracts and agreements.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Board Member Smith?
Dr. Lawrence, for the Mind Play, do we know right now, I know on here it's a 3-year contract, do we know right now what the current details are for when does that license expire that we're currently on?
That would begin now, and it was expire 3 years from now. So we're starting a new 3-year renewal, and the idea is, again, we're still giving teachers and administrators and building-based teams the flexibility to use this as a resource versus a prescription, but we wanted to make sure that they had it as one of their tools in their toolbox.
Okay, so then to follow up with that, say if this didn't go through, they would no longer be able to use MindPlay as of what date?
That will be probably now. Yeah, the contract ends now. We're doing a 3-year renewal right now.
All right.
Any other questions? Board Member Sampson?
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Lawrence, is this 3-year contract the only option we have? I recognize that there is some new energy, some new focus, some working with curriculum, different things that are trying to be achieved. So is there an option to do less than a 3-year contract? Because one of the concerns that you've shared, the data has shared, that Dr. Pickett shared it. How do we know that we won't go back to this becoming a tier 1 intervention versus its intent of being a tier 2 or tier 3? So I'm really interested, do we need to do this $726,000 investment, or does MindPlay give us an annual opportunity so we can get our data together versus being locked in for 3 whole years?
I certainly would, and I think the team would be open to something less than 3 years. You heard Assistant Superintendent Minor say repeatedly that we're talking about fidelity, and and you heard Dr. Goodwine say, "How do you know?" We have a new administrative team, and it's a team really full of principals who get out in buildings and make observations as part of that central office transformation that we've not only talked about, but we've sent out a one-pager to administrators and teachers that say we're going to do things radically different in central office this year. And part of that is spending lots of time out in the field, coaching, supporting, and seeing what is actually happening. So no, it doesn't have to be 3 years, but we did want to, again, because these changes are so rapid, we've been on the job about a month, and some people less than that. As Lisa Minor said, this is her second day. And we wanted to still provide that as a resource. And so that's kind of where we are. We could do less than 3 years. We wouldn't be opposed to it.
Does that include your question, Board Member Simpson?
My next question is for you, Madam President. How do we not necessarily pull this item, but how do we recommend, or does it have to come through the superintendent to recommend a lower contract versus the multi-year?
I think you can pull it to be voted on separately and put an amendment out to it to 1 year.
Thank you, ma'am. I would
Mr.
like.
Parliamentarian,
I mean, that is the practice, if you
Okay.
like.
So,
I mean, it would be, that would require a motion to amend.
so you would need to pull it to be voted on separately, and then after we voted on the first part, put a motion out to amend the length of the contract.
So is it proper to request pulling it now, even though there's questions on the floor?
No, you can pull it now.
Yeah, I would like to pull.
To vote separately.
To vote separately, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? I have one on the pulled item itself, and I don't know if it would be you or the IT department. Is the rate different? Well, I'm gonna guess a rate would be different for a 1-year contract versus a 3-year contract. So should that not to exceed be removed as well? If the flexibility of it, if it does pass under a 1, 2, or 3-year contract?
Yeah, we can remove that. There could be negotiated higher. They could charge us more for 1 year versus 3. It's possible we got a deal or a rate for 3 versus 1.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Okay, so now we are on the pulled item. This is where you would make your amendment.
Oh, Madam President, I would like to request if the superintendent, with his recommendation, would consider us a one-year contract versus the multi-year contract with MindPlay.
I and the academic team would definitely consider that. That would give us a chance to jump in and evaluate this year and then go from there.
I believe you have to make a motion to amend it.
So I need to make a motion to amend it?
You have to amend the original.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Madam President, I would like to make an amendment to reduce an agreement from a 3-year contract to a 1-year contract with the correction of whatever the rate is with the not to exceed to match that rate.
You have to say the word motion in there.
He did.
He said amendment.
So I would like to make a motion
Thank you.
to the amendment of the MindPlay agreement being, go from 3 years to 1 year with the not to exceed to match that 1-year rate.
All right, and
Second.
quick question, does the person who made the original motion have to accept the amendment?
No, I mean, this amendment be voted on.
Okay, yep, all right. So it's been moved and properly second. Any questions?
I mean, I question the people that have a problem with MindPlay. What's the evidence that it doesn't work or something? Where is this evidence? I've not seen it. All I've seen is evidence from MindPlay, actually, that the schools, especially like Kemp, that have been working on it and that have used it with fidelity. Kemp went from being a mid-level elementary school to they moved up to the fourth best elementary school in performance. So I'm questioning where's this evidence that MindPlay doesn't work?
Madam President, if I may.
It's all on you.
Board Member Lacy, I'm not suggesting that it doesn't work. What I'm saying is that for the last month, I've requested data to show us it does work. You've done your individual assessment of it, which has heightened my understanding. But as a district, we have to depend on MindPlay to produce the data for us. So I need, for me, I would like for us to see what the data shows as relates to the effectiveness of MindPlay. I'm not saying MindPlay doesn't work. I'm saying for the district, can it be used as an enhancement versus some individual educators and or buildings using it outside of its originated intent? MindPlay is a tier 2, tier 3 intervention. There are individuals who were using it as a tier 1 intervention and were using it for 1 hour, 2 hours a day. That's educational neglect, in my opinion. So I'm not saying that MindPlay does not work. I'm saying that the data, where's the data that suggests it works holistically for the entire district versus pockets of successes in individual buildings? That's all I'm saying.
Can I jump in real quick? For the people at home, can you explain real quick what the difference of the tiers are? Please.
So my understanding, and anybody can help me because I'm not the master educator.
I can step in, Board Member Sampson, if you want.
Thank you.
Tier 1 instruction for those at home, that is a whole class. If you have 25 kids, you're instructing all 25. Tier 2 is typically small groups between 2 to 3 to 5 students. That's tier 2. And then tier 3 is what we call intensive. That is typically one-on-one, the teacher and a child. And so what Board Member Sampson is saying is that this computer program has been used as a tier 1 instruction, and virtually none of those types of programs typically are to be used in that space. They're usually to be used as a tier 2 or tier 3 intervention.
All right, thank you. Board Member Lacy, would you?
I mean, I respect your search for proof that it works within the district, but to call an entire school's performance a pocket of success doesn't sound statistically accurate to me. An entire school is a lot of children taking tests. So I wouldn't call it a pocket of success or minimize the success of a school within the district.
Yep, and Mr. Lacy, I'm not minimizing the success of 1, 2, 3 buildings. But to be a district that has 18, 19 elementary schools, the percentage is still low about the success throughout the district. And for us to vote on a $725,000 investment over a 3-year period of time, I just want to make sure, because we've made this investment prior, I just want to see the data that supports this large investment for the district. Again, my children use MindPlay. They have educators who used it the way it was supposed to be used. Parents, I get to engage, but I'm saying, what is the data that supports this large investment across the district? I'm not minimizing the success of a Kemp. I'm not minimizing the success of other buildings who have been using it with fidelity in the purpose in which it was instructed to use. But some buildings used it more than it should be. It became a teaching tool versus an intervention tool, in my opinion. And I just want to make sure that the data supports this $725,000 investment, because if the data shows, again, in a year, that MindPlay has not been effective for all kids to a certain degree, then we are locked into a rate for another 2 years for a program that may not be beneficial to more than a small portion of the district's scholars.
But isn't it a generality? I mean, if you look across the district, you were saying that it's being used by 18 schools, 18 elementary schools. The schools that are using it more, and there are, amongst these schools, it sounds like there are schools that are using it more and some that are using it rarely at all. The schools that are using it more, are they not, in general, performing better?
And my response to that, Mr. Lacy, I don't know, because we haven't been presented with that data to see if using it more has benefited that individual educational institution. I've been asking for the data, but we have to go to MindPlay to extrapolate data for us. So I don't know what's working because we don't have the data to support it. That is what I'm saying.
And the data's not in our performance index scores.
No.
I believe it is.
I'm sorry, I don't want to, if I may, Madam President.
Go ahead.
I think when we have that discussion, I think we have to parse some of that stuff when we talk about what schools are doing it more and then what schools are doing it correctly. Because those are two separate things to say, what schools are doing it more and then what schools are using it in a correct fashion and in a way that enhances the education. I think when we look at the performance index, I can't directly attribute it to saying that these are the schools that are doing MindPlay correctly. When we also just heard from Ms. Miner talk about when she went to a school and found out teachers were teaching in a way that teachers in the district weren't teaching as well. So it's not just this school did MindPlay differently. This school also was doing other creative things. And if we really want to parse through the data, a lot of our high-performing schools also have the similarity in that they have staff that have been together for a number of years. They have staff that has been serving with each other. They have tenured staff that has been there. And we look at some other schools, and you have schools with long-term subs that are coming in. You have schools with teachers that have had 1 or 2 years, teachers that may not have been trained properly, teachers that had bad experiences and have left. So it's not as easy in my mind to say that the schools who do MindPlay the best are the schools that will perform better. Because that's also evident in looking at when you see parents making decisions at the elementary level, you see some of these schools, the Eastmont line goes down the street. Parents are driving to make sure their kids are over there. They have had these relationships. You have, like we talked about, every school isn't doing looping with their teachers and with those classrooms. So unless we're looking at doing everything the same way, which then isn't equitable either, but I can't just look at MindPlay. Now, I would say I would want in this time, if I could make that request, and you know, I'm just me, but to see what else is also just out there on the market, getting out there with our teachers, getting out there with staff, parents, students, because it's not as if MindPlay is the only software on the market to use for this kind of thing. There are people in our district that have brought to us different times, different solutions that they have worked with in their intervention specialist coursework, that they have done in their tutoring outside of the district that they say is better. I would say that give us time or take time to put together a team to look at what could be done, what else is out there. So I do appreciate the amendment put on the floor because I think it gives us the opportunity to, one, I know people have said things have moved quickly, so we don't want to move too quickly. We want to give people the opportunity to have the tools out there, but I do think we're at a time where we can see, okay, what else could we do? Is there a better way to do some of this? Is there a way that we can have more trainings with some of the other things that are out there? So, but that is my piece on that. I don't want people to think that when we look at using a tool is the end-all be-all for when we look around at the district, and then it totally wipes away some of the socioeconomic issues that we see, some of the lack of equity that we've seen over the past years and years. When we talk about even from when we broke down into the quadrant system, and now you're looking at students being able to go to schools in certain areas if they have the transportation to go to that school. So it's not as simple as saying just, if we do this right, we'll get higher scores when we have a myriad of other things that play into the data that we get. Thank you, Madam President.
If I could just add a couple words on here, and from the lens of the IT Technical Committee, it's a long name, IT and Building Technical Committee, I think that's it. One of the things that we are looking at, and I'll say I am neither strongly in favor or strongly against of MindPlay. I am very neutral on it. I'm more on what works for our district. But some of the feedback that I got, not necessarily on the data piece, but it's on the customer service piece of when our teams are trying to get some type of service from the provider of it, that it has not been the best for us. And one of the things that we had just talked about an hour before this meeting was actually really going through all of our softwares and platforms and really doing a deep dive assessment of how they're serving us in multiple facets, including how they're service for us for the district. So either way that we go on this one, I do think that is a different lens to look at the one-year contract with, and ensuring that the service piece of it, and whether that is with the back-end modules or how teachers are needing requests from the software itself, is something to be able to evaluate. Because if it's poor customer service, no matter how good the product is or how efficient it is, it's not efficient for the users if they aren't getting that service part of it in there. So I just wanted to add that from the technology group of something we're doing with all of our softwares and platforms and systems right now, of just making sure that they are beneficial to us as a district and working in their intended ways. Anybody else? All right, seeing no other questions, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. Your next recommendation?
I think we have, that was to amend.
Oh.
We need to vote on.
Oh, okay. That was to amend.
So we're voting on a one-year contract.
All right, now we're voting on a one-year
To
contract.
propose, I
We'll
guess,
need
to propose a one-year contract if they get one.
Okay. May we have the next vote on the proposal of a one-year contract for MindPlay?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Okay. Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following consultant contracts.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, your next recommendation?
I recommend approval of the waiting 48-hour waiver to present the following.
We already did that one.
What?
We waived
You
it.
did?
Now it's the actual
It's the actual resolution.
resolution.
Gotcha.
What?
So you are,
So you recommend the approval of the resolution.
Gotcha. I recommend approval of the resolution.
Is there a motion?
Which
So moved.
resolution is that?
Second.
Oh,
Moved by Board Member Wick and seconded by Dr. Pickett. Any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I think this will more so be for the treasurer. Madam Treasurer, what has been the previous practice for the last few administrators on this level after they left? Did we do something similar to this or no?
which one are you talking?
E. Resolution E. Leave payout.
Okay. For vacation, we pay, if someone resigns or retires, we pay up to 40 hours. For personnel, we don't pay. It's use or lose only.
So then this, it would be different from what we have been previously doing.
Yes. Differently than the policy, yeah.
Any other questions?
Madam President, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Since it's been established that this is different, can we have an explanation as to why it's different so we know exactly why we're voting on it this way? I need some clarification.
Board Member Reiner, I would say that this is I think a miscommunication between myself and the treasurer's office. When I saw this for this employee, my intention was to say that, hey, listen, the employee's gone. I overwhelmingly do not like to haggle about money when people are leaving. I like to treat them with dignity and pay them. Sometimes we shouldn't do that. But for me, it's better to pay them and then to leave and say, hey, got a really good taste in my mouth about Dayton Public Schools versus the back and forth between all the things that happen behind the scenes. And so I would say that I was not in alignment with leadership on this one. This is something that, a way that I operate.
Any other questions, comments? Go ahead.
Okay, 1 second. I was trying to look.
1 second while Board Member Smith looks at something. I have one question for you, Dr. Lawrence, on this one.
Sure.
Would it be appropriate to do the personal leave, since that is a use or lose, versus the vacation leave, which is earned?
My email stated vacation. It did not say personal leave. We've had that situation before, and I agree with that.
Okay. I'd like to make an amendment to the motion. Go ahead, Board Member Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a question. And I don't know if it's Dr. Lawrence, HR, I'm not sure. My question is, if this has not been a practice of the board to vote on, how did it get on the agenda to be voted on? If this is not something that's been a practice, and this is usually handled in the treasurer's office, and there's a formula that already exists that I can't recall ever having a resolution to pay, how did it get on the agenda to be voted on?
The fact that it's so different may be the reason why it ended up on the agenda. because it's something that historically hasn't been done, I guess, in this way. But as I understand it, that's why it was placed on the agenda.
Thank you so much. Madam President, because there are a lot of questions, is it possible to table this until our next meeting to give us an opportunity to get a better understanding of what is really taking place in this resolution?
I was actually going to ask for amendment to the resolution.
Okay.
I had one more question for Executive Director Jones. Our practice is typical to pay out vacation. Is that correct?
As I understand it, correct.
And vacation, my question on individuals, because how much vacation carries over?
40 hours.
For individuals who actually work through those, have we made exceptions in the past?
I'm not sure I can get that information.
Because how do we get to above 40 hours?
So,
Okay, so, I mean, I would say, thank you. Mr. Alman said the former superintendent, correct, approved that part. And our practice has been, because vacation time is earned. So I was going to request an amendment to remove the personal, because that is not earned time. But the vacation was earned and approved by someone who had that ability to it.
Our policy is to pay up to 40 hours.
I get that, but
for a vacation. For personal, no pay. It's use or lose.
And the superintendent has the ability to approve the excess over 40 hours to roll over, correct?
Yes, to use it, not to pay.
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead.
It seems like we are lacking critical information to be able to, in my opinion, vote on this without putting ourselves in some murky legal waters. If it would please the board, I would like to make a motion to table this until the next meeting so we can have our legal team look at this and make sure that we are following best practices for how we are treating our employees. And I echo Dr. Lawrence's desire for making sure that we have positive separations between the district and employees, but making sure that we are acting in accordance to legal guidelines and best practices and not making a mess for things down the road. So with that, I make a motion to table this until the next meeting so legal can review this and we can make sure that we are voting on the best possible resolution.
I would second the motion.
All right, moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor? I'm not involved. Can we have a vote, Madam Treasurer?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following memorandum of understanding.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Board Member Sampson?
Thank you, Madam President. This MOU, Dr. Lawrence, between RTA and our Dayton Public Schools SROs, can you give me, one, I'm concerned of the perception. I want to go on record to show that it is not, in my opinion, our students who are causing a lot of chaos in downtown Dayton at the hub. My question is, what authority or powers do our SROs have when there's already a police presence at the hub, if that hasn't changed? What is the rationale to have DPS SROs at the hub and there's already a police presence who has more authority than our SROs?
We echo your sentiment about our students not being primarily or sometimes even secondary or at all part of the issues that are down there at Fourth and Jefferson. And so we echo that. This agreement simply just says that because our SROs typically know the kids, this agreement puts us in a space where we're reimbursed for the services when we do send our SROs down there. There's been a conversation where I've asked in certain spaces to be reimbursed, and that request was denied. So we now have a resolution MOU that says, hey, if we provide those services, we need to be reimbursed for those services.
Thank you so much.
Quick question for you. So this isn't, you just said if we provide those services. So that means if they come to the table and sign with them, then we'll provide them. So we're not guaranteed to do it without the MOU?
No, we're not.
Okay. And it's still on the other, this is just giving you guys the authority to enter into a possible MOU.
That is correct.
Any other questions? Board Member Smith?
If I may, I know Chief Wright had been at some of the meetings that have been going on between our side, city, downtown Dayton partnership, a lot of those other folk. If I may, Dr. Lawrence, would I be able, is it okay to let Chief Wright add some insight into those conversations that they've been having?
That would be wonderful.
Appreciate you, sir.
No problem. Good evening. The actual partnership is more, the question was asked as far as the dealings with the students or our students down at the RTA Hub. It's more or less that communication piece and make sure that our children are protected down there at Right Stop Plaza, Right Stop Plaza. It isn't our students that have been identified as the ones causing problems at the hub. We haven't got that confirmed as it's DPS students, but to have us down there, those relationships that we build in the building and extension of the classroom down at the hub, we're just giving more protection for our students here in Dayton.
And has there been any pushback on our SROs for having that duty? And then I know a couple of times the SROs have rode down there on some of the buses. Would that continue as well?
That can continue, yep. It'll be on buses and down at the Right Stop Plaza, if needed.
Appreciate it.
And this is again, if the other parties on this agreement come to the table and agree to work with us in that component.
That is correct.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, may we have a vote? Thank you, Chief Wright.
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson.
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett.
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
I recommend the approval of the following resolution for administrative position.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson.
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett.
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the changes in the gifted resolution.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we, go ahead, Board Member Sampson.
So this change is for the 23-24 school year only? And the reason I'm asking, so it says it will begin 23-24. Then what, Dr. Lawrence, what will we gauge to see the effectiveness of it? Because I think it is a great idea, but how do we gauge it to, how will we report out to make sure that this change in model is what we want to continue carrying, moving forward after this 23-24 school year?
Board Member Sampson, I can answer that, but I'm going to call one of the people up here who's in love with gifted and the Liddy program to answer that question. Come on up, Dr. Williams. She loves those kids in Liddy, so here's your chance.
Thank you very much for the question, and the kids in Liddy are absolutely amazing and astounding. So we can certainly look at the end of this year and see the changes and how that has affected it. I know already in the classrooms, by being able to combine those classrooms together, we're able to serve more students and in a more productive manner, rather than having a gifted class of, say, 1 or 2 students. Now they're in a class of 16 students. They can collaborate, they can work together, they can learn from one another. So I see many benefits to this change, but we can certainly look at it at the end of this year as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
I recommend the approval of the following resolution, OPC, Psychologist 766.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
I recommend the approval of the following resolution, OPC, Paraprofessional 643.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Madam President, that concludes my recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Your first recommendation.
I recommend the approval of permanent certificate of estimated resources as reviewed last week.
So moved. Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of appropriation, permanent appropriations as reviewed last week.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Moved and properly second. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of permanent interfund transfer as reviewed last week.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of repayment temporary board advances.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of monthly financials for July 2023 as reviewed by the Finance Committee on Thursday.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following resolution: adoption of the pickup for state employee retirement system. This one is, the board is picking 6% of the retirement for DSSs and administrators. And we have to have a resolution for SERS.
Your recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses. I recommend the approval of the adoption of the pickup for stairs.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
President,
Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
Oh, gosh. I recommend the approval of the minutes for July 11, 18, and 27.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of then and now as reviewed last week.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following purchase requisitions as reviewed last week.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved is second. Any questions? I have one. Can we please pull Mind Play to be voted on separately? To be amended to match our other one, but I'll do all that motion when we get there. Board Member Sampson?
Thank you, Madam President. Dragonfly Athletics, can someone tell me what the services are they're managing? It says school, OSHA athletic officials and workers for all sports.
Essentially, that's just another system in a way to kind of cash out coaches so that they can get paid immediately. Used to have to take a long time to do that, and so that's what that is. Most school districts are using some version of that.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. Thank you, Madam President.
Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
okay, Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we amend the purchase requisition for Mind Play to match the 1 year that we approved in the contracts.
So moved.
Second.
I mean, I don't know if it's necessary. Wouldn't we just wait for the, I mean, the intent, the board's intent's known, that we just want to go with 1 year of mind play. Can the treasurer just bring us back another purchase requisition? Also, this one says general fund.
Yeah, the other one said a whole different.
Yeah, the other
title.
one said 572.
Okay.
I will say that it was moved to
Title
second.
fund, it was title funds.
Well, we got a motion on the floor. We got to do something with the motion because it was quickly moved in second.
Oh, okay, that's
So,
fine. I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I thought she would just come back with another purchase requisition at the next
Just,
meeting.
just table it for, okay, so,
I can go either way.
well, I think the people with the motion have to like take their motion back so then we can do a motion to table because we have something out there right now. I'm
Whatever
just-
they wanna do.
It's just that right there. It's like the
Okay.
technical piece. So, whoever put the motion out, I don't know who did. It happened so quick. Dr. Pickett was second.
I second it.
You was second. I know that. I don't know who was first.
I so moved.
Okay.
So, Madam President, can we table this until the new numbers come?
You got to take the first motion back and then you got to put a motion to table since we did that earlier.
So I'm withdrawing my motion.
Thank you. Okay. Now, second, a motion to table.
Second.
Oh, I didn't move, but okay.
You did now.
I did now. I guess I'm motion to table. Yeah, but we're on the second one because this was the one that was pulled off second. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, okay. Any questions on the table? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
Okay, President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Does that conclude your recommendation?
Yes.
Thank you. On to new business. I recommend the approval of a supplemental interim superintendent contract for Dr. David Lawrence at the rate of $160,000 a year from the date of appointment. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Are there any questions? Go ahead, Board Member Sampson.
Can, for the record, explain supplemental?
I think you can. Go ahead.
No, I'm asking.
It's on top of his increasing his current pay up to a higher pay for the duration of his contract from the date of employment.
Got it.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yeah.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, thank you. Our second thing on our item is to appoint a representative to the OSBA Capital Conference in, I believe, November. I did it last year, and Board Member Sampson was my backup. I have no
Like-
interest of doing it this year. Is anybody interested?
Make a motion.
Go ahead,
Can I make a motion for Joe Lacy?
go ahead.
I'd like to motion that Board Member Joe Lacy be appointed our OSBA Capital Conference. No? Yes?
November.
I second.
I'll be-
Wow.
If it,
So the OSBA conference.
if it's during, I mean, I'll be in Guadalajara.
Rub it in.
During the election, but I think,
It's like-
I don't know when it is. Is it
After
the next
that.
week?
Usually like the week after.
I'll do it.
All right, we also need an alternate to,
I'd like to nominate Board Member Reiner.
okay? I'll second it. So on the floor, we have Board Member Lacy as the primary and Board Member Reiner as the alternate. Can we do all in favor by the yeas and, or do you want to do individual votes?
I'm okay with whatever.
Okay, all in favor of those two nominations, say yay.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, you guys good to go? All right, next on our agenda is to discuss our superintendent search process. Okay, so anybody want to open up the discussion here? Well, I'll just give a background. We put 2 RFPs out, and the first time we received 3 search firms. The second time we received 3 additional search firms. And at this juncture, we have to make a decision of whether we want to interview firms, appoint a firm, or go with a firm already, or if we want to take no action whatsoever. So that is today's conversation of what we would like to do next.
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead.
There are 2 firms that have really jumped out and impressed me a great deal. I would like to interview them a little bit further. I'm on the fence. I think that they would actually both do an excellent job representing our needs in our district and helping to usher us through this very large responsibility that we have in front of us. I don't know how other board members feel. I don't know if there are strong feelings about what board members are seeing in terms of the proposals that we've gotten. And I think it would just give us a little bit better of an opportunity to ask questions and get some answers rather than just perusing the materials that we've been given.
Okay, and which 2 firms are those?
I was impressed with HYA and the Alma Group.
Okay.
And if I could talk a little bit about why I've landed on those 2. Over the past 9 months, I have reached out to my professional network across the state and across the nation and asked board members all across the country, what has been your experience with looking for a superintendent? What was it like for you? Which firm did you use? Did you like them? How did you find the firm? If they've done this multiple times, I talked to them about different ways that they approached it. I heard overwhelmingly positive things about both of these firms. I think that we wouldn't go wrong with either one of them. I do think that looking at the Alma Group, they've worked extensively with Cincinnati recently. I think that their group that is composed of really impressive Black women is a model that I think is very positive in terms of what we know our district and our community looks for. It reflects our values, and so I feel I'm very impressed with their proposal. I think HYA has a national reputation that is stellar. I've heard a lot of good things about both of them, but I haven't talked with other board members about their impressions. That is where I am.
Okay. Anyone else? Are you raising your finger? Oh,
I concur.
okay. Go ahead, Board Member Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam Superintendent. I did look at, I said, Madam Superintendent.
Not worried.
Madam President, since we're talking about this, I will say I did look at the firms. I will say that I also agree on the 2 that stood out, but I disagree in the fact that I still would not go with them. I looked at the things that I've seen from these firms, and I look at Alma and I say, okay, this is the search firm that helped Denver find their superintendent. And they brought somebody in from the East Coast to be a superintendent in Denver, and then I go, but Denver has 88,000 students. I look at Cincinnati, it's a much larger district than us, even though it's right down the road. I just am of the thought that we don't, my opinion is we do not need it in that way. If you're going to search, I just put it out there, let people come in, get community involved. I am just not of the, unless they're coming in at a cut rate, which, I don't know. But to look to spend the kind of money that districts are paying when they're 8 times the size of ours is ridiculous to me. Those are the ones that did stand out. Like I said, that is my reservation, is going out and using a search firm. And I think I spoke at length at a previous meeting about the efficacy of search firms as it pertains to our district. We have seen the history of bringing folk in to be headhunters for our district and it not go well. Some of the things that we talk about when we look at the data, some things when we look at the issues that we've had, we've seen those kind of things. So that is my thought. I respect the board's the direction, in whichever way the board will go, but I must say that I myself do not feel that right now I would need to pay a high cost for a search firm to come in and do this work for a small district.
Any other comments? Board Member Wood?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm in agreement with Board Member Smith in that, I certainly respect the wishes of the board and understand that this is a important responsibility for us as we are working to assign this leadership piece. I too believe personally, based on my experience on this board of 6 years and understanding that our candidate pool is, I would say somewhat shallow, but it is somewhat shallow, that spending a lot of money on a national search will not yield what we're looking for. I believe that, we can take different approaches to making sure that the process is inclusive and sets up the next person ultimately for success, because I think that the process of allowing community input and stakeholder input is important, and everybody has the should have the opportunity to be heard in certain aspects, but that honestly too, time is of the essence, and that we need to keep moving forward, and I want to spend our time and energy doing the work, and a national search firm to me seems like a waste of time and energy, but I yield to the collective opinion of the board. That's my personal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Board Member Dr. Pickett?
Thank you, Madam President. I am comfortable with these two search firms, and I will be excited to bring a firm to come over and talk to the community and talk to all of us. There's 7 people in this board right now, and we all have an idea of what the district needs. And I would love to get that feedback from the community, from the parents, from the teachers, from everyone who is involved. And I think a search firm would allow us to come up with a shared vision of what we want to bring. And so that's what I think a firm would help us to do that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Board Member Sampson, do you have anything you'd like to put out there?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to echo piggyback on what Dr. Pickett stated. If the direction of the board is to go with a search firm, that I too would encourage listening to educators, the community, but I also want us to be mindful that when they speak, that we listen. The last time we did a search, the community was totally objective to individuals that were selected. They chose someone, and we did not listen to this community. And here we are again saying that we want to engage the community, which is going to be very hard pressed in my opinion, because they've been asked to speak for so many years. And when they do, the history shows that they have not been listened to. So if the search firm is the direction, and we're truly interested in engaging the community, it is my hope that we share with this search firm, whatever one is chosen, that they listen to the community, and the board, after we've listened to them and the data has been presented to us, that we also listen to the community. Yeah, true community engagement. If that's something that we're after, it is my hope that we listen to them after they have spoken. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. I believe I covered everyone. A couple thoughts. I do think that in addition to the community, it's also our staff, our team, our parents. It is a collective effort of, in addition to the 7 individuals up here who have an idea of what they're looking for in leadership, I do think that it is necessary for us to hire someone because we don't have the bandwidth to do it ourselves. We just don't. I will say with that one, I do think that there are internal candidates. I mean, I'm sitting next to one that is doing a great job right now that's out here, but there are also other individuals in our district that I know should get an opportunity to get the same opportunity to interview and go through the process with it. I don't know how I feel about external individuals, but I'm willing to give a person a chance to prove to us why they should have the top seat, because I do believe it is a important seat in this organization, and it is the helm of this organization. So I do believe it's our due diligence to make sure that we do what we can. I don't think we are bound by our precedent, because we are not the board that was here before. The board that comes after us will not be the board that's here right now. Every 2 years, there are 7 individuals who are charged with their due diligence and carrying out what people have elected us to do. So I am in favor of the 2 firms, and I will say the 3rd firm, just so individuals know, was the Ohio School Board Association. Comparative to the 2 we got, I don't see them as a comparative thing. I would like to know, because I've heard twice about the amount of money we spend on this, what are individuals' thoughts on a reasonable amount to pay for this search? Just ballpark. Or what's the unreasonable amount?
If we're going unreasonable, looking at some of these firms that have worked around here for districts such in Northern Ohio, 75 was Cincinnati, I think. 40, Akron paid 40. So looking at that, 20,000, and I still would say it's too much, because we're looking at districts that have twice the size of ours and have not paid over 50,000.
So 20,000 is for you.
And I still think that would be 20,000 too much.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
Remind me again what we paid for hoodies last year?
$68,000.
$68,000.
Thank you.
And I still see our kids wearing them.
And they're wearing them everywhere, and they're wonderful and beautiful.
So the question on the floor was, again, what you guys think is a reasonable amount, not comparative of like necessarily other things we purchased. So if you guys don't have anything else, I guess we'll just.
50.
About 50,000? Okay.
20, I'm with Will, 20.
All right. So I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with interviewing the AMA Advisory Group and the HYA Associates before making a final selection on our superintendent search. Is there a second?
Second.
Move the second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Mr. Sampson,
No.
Ms. Wick,
No.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
4 yeses, 3 no.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to make a motion that we reimburse the board member travel that's listed in item D.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any questions?
Madam President, if I may, I just want to make a note. At the last conference I attended, the hotel mistakenly charged my personal credit card. It's been a little bit of a burden, and so that's what this fee is for. It's for reimbursing me. We're still working on getting it resolved at the hotel. We have not made a lot of progress.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you.
Pres-
Next,
President Goodwin,
yes.
I just noticed that there's the superintendent's contract. It doesn't have the contract, and we don't know how to pay it. Is there a detail on that?
It's a supplemental to the existing contract?
Or to the existing?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right, the next one is the Board Member Policy Manual. And I just wanted to make a note that Ms. Kidd has done an excellent job of updating the policy manual to us, and we received it in February, and I believe she sent it out again last month. And the intent is to really utilize an individual's experiences as board members to update that manual for, in January, we will have a new board. And that's kind of the guidance for the board. So if there are adjustments or changes and things that people see that need to go in that policy manual, can you please? Uh-huh. Handbook, sorry. It's the board member handbook, which is kind of how we govern ourselves by ethics. So if people can please look at that, because that will be up for a vote in the near future. So we will have the most recent edition. And again, we're looking for people's experience here and things that kind of help navigate as a board in there.
Madam President, if I may. I have a number of questions. I read through the whole thing. Given the number of questions and things I'd like to discuss that I found through it, I'm sure other board members will have it. I would suggest that rather we have the conversation by email or in a meeting, that we do this at a board retreat so we can really take a couple hours to have the thorough conversations that is necessary for fleshing this document out.
We can add it to the last retreat of the year, because that way we can get it done and at least take next year's board until with a completed document.
Thank you.
That's fine. All right, comments. Let's go. Board Member Reiner.
Are you referring to?
New business.
Okay.
Comments, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I didn't realize. I have a number of updates to make to the public. First of all, thank you to everybody here. It is 9:44. It is late. I'm grateful for the patience that you have all shown us and the grace that you've given us. This has been a very long meeting. I'm very tired. You can probably hear it in my voice. So thank you again. I have a number of things that I've worked on over the last month since my last update. First of all, there's not much happening in the State House right now, so I do not have anything in terms of a legislative update. What I'd like to share with you is work I've been doing outside of the boardroom. On July 20th, I attended the OSBA Urban Network meeting. It was I go to these whenever they hold them. It is a fantastic opportunity for me to meet with other board members from the other urban districts across the state. Sometimes we have guided discussions, and sometimes we are given the opportunity to talk to people outside of Ohio and hear about some of the things that they're doing. That is what we were able to do last month. We had some guest speakers, some administrators from the Miami-Dade County Schools came, or Zoomed in and talked to us about some of the initiatives that they're doing. One of the things that was really impressive is they set a goal for the % of contracts or goods or services going to minority, women, and vet-owned local businesses. When they did a survey of the number of contracts that were awarded to minority or women and vet or local businesses, the number was 1%. It was very, very low. They set a goal that they would award 7% within a number of years to those businesses, and they are currently at higher than 7%. They exceeded their goal. It really shows a commitment to the community, a reflection of their values. I was really impressed with some of the things that they did, and I would be happy to provide more information about that to board members if they want to talk about it later. Another thing I neglected to talk about last month, When I shared some of the takeaways from the CABC conference was there is an initiative in Portland Public School District where they have opened up a Center for Black Excellence. I'm mentioning this now because I want to talk about it with Dr. Lawrence in my meeting later this month. It was a really fantastic way for them to put their money where their values are. Build up this, I'm digging into it, I'm doing some research. I still have a lot to learn about it, but I wanted to mention it in front of this board. I have been working on preparing for my advocacy effort in Washington, D.C. next month. As you all know, I am a delegate for this congressional district. There's a secondary delegate, and then there's an alternate delegate. I've been communicating with them. We're working on sitting down and actually meeting in person. We haven't been able to do that yet because we are all parents, and we all have kids and things that have kept us busy this summer. I have, in the meantime, reached out to Senator Brown, Senator Vance, and Congressman Turner's offices, and I've made appointments with all the offices when I go out to DC next month. I'm not always able to secure an appointment with the offices. I'm really glad that this year I'll be able to visit all three of them and really have a great opportunity to sit down and talk about some of the federal legislative priorities that we know are good for public education. Another thing that I'm excited to bring up publicly, I know Dr. Lawrence will be really excited about this initiative, is I think one of the ways that we can strengthen what we're doing here in DPS is looking at our community partners. Who is out there that can really strengthen what we're doing already? One of those, I think, is Wright Pat Air Force Base. We talk about STEM schools. We talk about military families. We have programs that I think can be strengthened. I would like to see if there's a conversation about expanding our junior ROTC programs for students. I would like to see if we can dig into creating a partnership with Wright Pat and our STEM school. There is a meeting that I went to last week. It was the Purple Star Award Roundtable. Is anybody here familiar with the Purple Star Award? It is an award given to individual schools, not districts, to schools that give supports to military-connected students. These are the children of our active duty and reserve duty military personnel. We are the largest district that is adjacent to Wright Pat Air Force Base. Mad River School District has a couple Purple Star Awards given to their schools. I met folks from all across the state who had traveled here to have this roundtable event and talk about what is it to have the Purple Star Award? How do we do it? What's the timeline? There is only one other district, there's only one other urban district in Ohio that has schools that have the Purple Star Awards, and that is Toledo. I want to be the second. I think we have a lot of schools that if we look at the number of military students, children of military families in these schools, and give the resources available to the administrators in these schools and providing the resources that these kids need. They need resources when their parents are deployed or when they moved here recently, when they've moved a lot. These are things that help our students be more resilient. They have some very specific needs that not a lot of other students have. My husband was an Army brat, and he talks quite movingly about it was really hard. His dad was away for a couple of years when he was deployed, and they moved all over the world for much of my husband's upbringing. I think that understanding which of these students we have, how to identify them, and how to give them supports would be beneficial to everyone. With that, one more thing. We do have an OSBA Urban Symposium coming up, I believe, in October. The organizer of that symposium, I had a really good meeting with her. She was reaching out to board members across the state talking about what is it that you think we need to talk about as urban board members in this symposium. We had a really great conversation. I was really grateful that she brought me in and I was part of that conversation. With that, I believe that is all the updates I have. I'm grateful that we are in day 2 of a new school year. My kids are older, so they're not as excited as they were to go to school when they were in elementary school, but I know that they're happy to be back and happy to see their peers and their teachers that they love very much. Congratulations to all of our teachers and staff for a fantastic start to the school year.
Thank you. Board Member Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. A few things for me. I want to say thank you to the staff who have already had a long day, and some of the staff that I know like to stay up late at night thinking about the next day. I want to say thank you for being here this long. Thank you to the Dayton Foundation for their presentations today. Also, I would like to ask Dr. Lawrence to look into, I know we made a vote today for RAWE, the K-12 Solutions to Truancy. I want us to consider, we have 12,912 students, and we have one truancy coordinator and one social worker who works that department for truancy. I know that our success coaches work with those students who are on the bubble for chronic absenteeism, but our truancy department, which consists of 2 individuals, I think we need to consider increasing that number so they can, 2 people for hundreds, maybe thousands of students. I think that is concerning. And this truancy software solutions, I know they discuss liking it, they use it a lot internally, and I just want us to consider ramping up our truancy department, because 2 people for a district of 12,912 is concerning. And also, I want to shout out our superintendent for his going into the community. I know last Thursday, for the whole month of August on Thursdays, he's going into buildings, and I want the community to know, last Thursday was Wright Brothers, and then on this Thursday, he'll be at Bellhaven, and then the 24th, he will be at Stivers, and then on the 31st, he'll be at Westwood, home of the Eagles, by the way. And so make sure that the community who's listening, if you want to shake hands with Dr. Lawrence, hear some of the things he wants to do in the district, please, please, please consider coming out on August 17th. Now, I did all of that, and I don't know what time. What's the time?
6 to 7.
6 to 7 o'clock. Are you providing dinner, Dr. Lawrence?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, Angela Worley brought some. She brought dinner out last night, and at Wright Brothers, they took all of it.
All right. So 6 to 7 on Thursdays for the month. And then last for me, Madam President, I would like, I know we've been talking about it for the last 2 months, and I would like, the board has received the information, I would like to make a motion that we approve the retro pay for the coaches, the site coordinators that we've been discussing for 2 months. And so just to bring some closure to it, I would like to throw out a motion that the board approves the retro pay. I move it, or motion. So somebody got a second, right?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and second. Are there any questions? I have one. Where is the funds coming from? Because it is not included in our current budget. So where would the funds come from, and what is the total amount for those funds? I think that'd be Madam Treasurer.
I don't have it with me, but I sent it last time. It was 100 something.
$107,835.35.
And where would it be pulled from?
It must be general fund.
Does it take away from anything else, or is this just an advance to us? I mean,
if you going to approve it, you have to take from the fund balance we have, so we have to reappropriate.
Any other questions?
If I may, Madam President, could we get some clarification as to why it's been this long and we haven't been able to address this issue? Because I'm not sure I understand why it's taken this long, too, when several board members have expressed a desire to make sure that we are addressing the retro pay issue.
I think the question was, I think we wanted to know how much it would cost. And so there was research for that.
Yeah, as I discussed it last time, where did I discuss it? So we were waiting for the board approval, whether they will go with that much or not.
Right, I think if we can just go through the timeline quickly, it'll be, for people to know. We made the decision to change the pay of our, I don't know, we call it second level, lower.
Minor sports.
Minor sports, those that aren't the football, basketball, track, a variety. So the cheerleading, golf, tennis,
Softball.
soccer, those things. So we had put out to change their pay scale, and then also created assistant coaches for some of those sports. And at the time, that went into effect, I want to say, in the spring.
March.
It went into effect in March, that went into effect. And so then I think it might have been, Board Member Sampson may have asked, or after we had a couple conversations, because the first time we had these sports on there, we had pulled, I think, cheerleading off because theirs were so low that just putting a percentage rate still wouldn't have brought them up to an acceptable level. So after that conversation was had, we then talked about how some of these coaches also coach in the fall and winter. And so it hadn't been a motion or a thing put out on the floor to then pay in retro, because at the time what we had voted on was to change the pay starting from March. And then questions were asked, what would it look like if we had done it moved it back, and we look at it if it was a lump sum, if it was a retro, what would that look like for cheerleading coaches, other coaches in those sports that coached before we had changed? Because when we had first voted, it was just from the date that we had voted, and that's how it has been. And then I know there was some conversations, but we had never put anything out to do until now. So that is where we are today. They missed.
Nope. One question for the retro pay. Are these for individuals who are still with us? Are we doing individuals also that, or will we be doing individuals that are no longer with us as well?
It should be for the current ones. I don't know. We got the list from HR, and we calculated how much it will cost for the ones currently we have.
Can I add a friendly amendment to the motion? That the retro pay be for our current coaches that are still with us that were coaches during the time?
I accept your friendly amendment.
All right, are there any other questions?
For the current
Coaches that are with us in this year, that were with us at the time that we did the increases.
Okay.
So what are you wanting us to go back to the fall of 2022?
Or spring.
It says on here, retro to 7/1/22.
Yeah, so that would have been the start of fall season.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's have one more question, and this is gonna come out of the general fund, not anyone's existing budget, because I don't wanna mess with what they got. Like, we'll have to increase somebody's budget for it to come out of this amount.
You have to approve an increase of budget.
Okay.
So general fund budget.
Okay, and
That's
then
what,
would the increase from the general fund go to athletics since that's what they're paid out of? to be
no,
paid, or
general
just-
fund,
it just
that's
separate?
okay, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Does it require a 48-hour waiver?
I don't think so if you put a motion on the floor right now at this moment,
Okay.
because it wasn't something that was up there. A board member just put it out there. All right, any other questions? All right, Madam Treasurer, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
No.
6 yeses, 1 no.
Madam President, if I may, one more, I forgot. Also, Dr. Lawrence, in the same token, about my request for the truancy department, looking at increasing staff in that department, I would also want us to look at our McKinney-Vento. They serve a lot of students, families that that are homeless, and so I think there's a staff of 1 in that department as well. And if we could just look at the feasibility of increasing that department to continue to do the work, I would greatly appreciate it.
Consider it done, you're absolutely right. It's one of our most fragile populations where we spend the least amount of money.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Dr. Pickett?
Thank you, Madam President. I don't have any updates for the ELL committee. We did not meet last month, but we're going to be meeting tomorrow. So I will probably have exciting news for next month. Other than that, I would just like to say to everyone, it's 22:03 and 19 seconds, and it's been a very long, long day for everyone. It's the second day of school, and we should have grace to ourselves and grace to everyone around us, because first days of school are very scary for everyone. And that's all I have to say today, Madam President.
Thank you. Board Member Witt?
Thank you, President Goodwin. I'll keep it brief because I know it's late. Really, a lot of gratitude, new leadership, new attitude, inspiration, hope, momentum. We have so many great things going on in the district, and thank you to all of you that continue to build this work. I think it's really super excited. I'm super excited, so thank you. I, on Saturday, attended the Black Boys film documentary at the Neon Movies, and I would love to stand up and scream and shout and beg you all to please go see it. I've made a request to Dr. Lawrence and his team that all of our staff and employees have the opportunity to view this piece. It is something that Preschool promised, secured for the area to preview exclusively. It is a documentary that addresses the dehumanization of Black boys by attempting the reverse, which is restructuring them to show they are worth the care they've been denied. And it is really beautiful and really relevant in our district, and I would encourage all of our board members to watch it. August 31st, it's being showed at Sinclair at 6:30, September 30th at the Neon Movies, and then I think you can watch for our team locally to be putting that out for all of us to watch. So really good movie, or a really good documentary. Welcome Stadium. We have an opening football game in 2 days. 2 days. Well, maybe if we wait another hour, it'll be 1 day. So, but anyway, it's really a beautiful facility. So any of you who haven't been out, please come out and enjoy the games this Thursday and Friday night. I think that you're going to be pleasantly surprised at at what we've created over there on that regard. And there are still things in play. Our Spirit Shop won't be open and ready until probably 2 or 3 games. We had some getting product in and getting it all set up. So while there are a lot of elements of it that are still underway. There's so much there to celebrate. So I hope you all come out and, and celebrate with us. So again, thank you all. Thank you for your time this evening, for your consideration, for your continued work, and appreciate you.
Thank you. Board Member Lacy.
Thank you, Madam President. The Finance Committee met this past Thursday and went over the financial statements. We also analyzed the permanent appropriation and went over that, and the result was some discussion and some explanation of the permanent appropriation that was emailed to all the board members. We also had some discussion of the budget beyond ESSERS, and that's my report. Thank you.
Okay. Vice President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer.
I'm not the treasurer. What's up with you?
I was
Golly.
thinking last time we passed it over to Hewitt, and I was coming back from
Treasurer,
her.
superintendent,
I called you
treasurer.
everything. I'm just call you good one today. But I want to say, I know we've been here forever, right? So first off, start of a school year, I want to say thank you to our staff. I know it's easy to say, but I really, really want to say thank you to all of you. And I want you guys to know, from me, I appreciate what you do when you give us information, because although it may seem differently sometimes, we are not educators. And that is that weird space that we have to learn. And I tell people, the biggest thing you can do as a board member is learn what goes on. Seek to understand what's going on, because we don't do this. We ask questions that come from our communities, from our populations, from the people that come across, but we don't do what you guys do every day. I know we passed two agreements. First off, I want to say thank you to our paras for the work that they do. It often goes overlooked that they are vital, vital cogs in the educational process. I know this from being a parent that relied on the assistance that para gave to my child. So I really want to say I appreciate that, and that is from when they would stop at my front door with the bus and help him get on the bus, take him to school, the help he got in school, the help he got on the way back home on that bus. Shout out to Miss Spurlock, she was over there with him. She knows he can be a handful sometimes. He got it honest. And then also, thank you to our psychologists. I know we talk a lot about pre-COVID, post-COVID. We don't really talk about the now. Like, COVID didn't go away. These things didn't go away. The things that a student had to go through being alone didn't go away. And then what also didn't go away was the fact that they are living in an urban environment. That didn't go away. So I want to thank the people that are on the front lines doing that work. I want to give a special shout out to Dr. Burton. I've seen her operate in those spaces sometimes, and I've shared with her, there was an instance last year at a school where we were really in crisis mode. And I walked in and I saw Dr. Burton really step in and shine and lead people when people needed to be led. And I think sometimes you have to let people know that you appreciate them when they do those things, because you guys do a lot for us. I want to give a thank you. Transportation. I appreciate the transparency to give to our parents. I've seen some things online. I appreciate the work that is going into that. Stay vigilant, my brother, because you're going to have more kids coming into it. If enrollment told you nothing else, but kids come in every day and enroll into this district all year. So, but I appreciate that. I think that's part of that leadership of letting people know I'm taking that head on. I want to say thank you to people that have stepped into new spaces. See Mr. Jones, he's brand new, walk with a different step now. Ms. Minor, Ms. Sheehy, I just appreciate the team, and I want to say thank you to Superintendent Lawrence for the work that you do. I know it's a lot. I really want to say I appreciate how you have stepped into this role right now, and it's really good to see that movement and getting out in the community. So I appreciate that. Lastly, I think, and I only want to say it because it's come up a few times. People in our community, we need to really see what happens from actions. And I know we've heard it, I've heard it 2-3 times today, I've heard it often. You hear this hoodie thing. You spent on hoodies. Go into a school and see the number of kids that wear those things like coats. Go into a building and see the kids that their teachers say they wear that every single day. Go talk to Chief Wright when he says, I saw something, I know it was 4 kids from Meadowdale, I'm gonna go make sure they're, we talk about things, and I will say, our superintendent, when they talked about our previous superintendent, she alluded and talked about how that process could have been cleaner on her part and on dealing with it, with coming across with the treasurer, but I would never walk that back anytime. To see that we as a board and as a superintendent put something into a child's life. I don't know if you see these kids. These kids do not wear coats often. These kids, and it's not a winter time, these kids wear those hoodies through the summertime as well. And so I would ask that if we're looking at doing something similar, connecting with some of our community partners, because we've had people reaching out about that and seeing how they could partner with that. Because when we talk about these things, it's one thing to speak about things in a dollars and cents, or we're doing this, and not look at what did it do for a child, and understanding those children who are walking around with hoods draped over their head, that safety and security that it causes for a child. So, and I love just seeing our kids representing, going to a tournament game and seeing an entire side of a bleachers for a Dunbar game, but it was kids from Ponance, Thurgood, Stivers, Meadowdale, and Belmont, Mound Street. Seeing Mound Street children walk around saying, I can't believe y'all did something for us. I love Mound Street. This changed my life. It's those pieces where get out in the community and just talk. Talk to a child, talk to a teacher, talk to a parent. Get out. So that is where I am on that, and I honestly hope that we do something like that for the incoming freshmen, because I look around in this community and you see that. You see kids going, I'm going to CJ, and their parents posting that Chaminade Julianne hoodie, and everybody smiles and says congratulations. They say, I'm going to Carroll, there's a hoodie. I'm going to Centerville, here's this hoodie. It seems for some reason when you do something for urban children, there's a problem. We got to get past that, and I think the more we talk to each other and understand the whys and the ramifications and how it moves, we'll be better for that, because like Mr. Yu said also, we are in the business of saving lives when you're in urban education. In some districts, you are in the business of supplementing what is already going on at home. In urban districts, you are in the business of saving lives, and that is why I appreciate you. Thank you for that time, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer.
This Friday is our is the first payroll for our teachers, and as you know, so many teachers are hired, and we have to make sure they are paid according to their contract. So we are working very hard to pay them correctly. That's all I have.
Thank you. Dr. Lawrence.
I'd like to thank Pastor Corey Cunningham and the Inspiration Church for their invitation and a wonderful service. I felt inspired. And I appreciate you and all the things that you do, and all the other community members who are sending invitations. I'll try to get there as best I can. Wright Brothers, wonderful retreat. Thanks for the invitation. Principals and teachers, we spent time on Saturday and Sunday in buildings, leaving notes on your boards, leaving notes on your doors, notes of encouragement to say it's going to be a great year. Operations, transportation, you were amazing all weekend. And I just want to say that every day someone asks me about the team, and it's just amazing to be on this team. I'm looking at them right now. I'm often asked, like, what's it like? And I just want to highlight one member of the team and then tell you all something. Judy, we've done this a long time together, almost 2 decades. And Judith Spurlock has been amazing with all 16 elementary schools. On Monday, the first day of school, is an anchor and support for the elementary principals. I appreciate you so much. So this is my chance each month to give a shout out to somebody on my internal team. And then for everybody else, we are DPS, all the pieces matter. And I text you all and said, come late tomorrow, or leave early, or don't come at all. Yeah, That's it. That's it.
All right, so I will start with the second reading of policy, resolution to adopt board policy. In so much as the Board of Education is committed to the continuing updating of the policies, rules and regulations manuals, and the committee, which was appointed, has been working towards that goal. The following is brought at this time for a second reading in compliance with board file. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Dayton City School District, Montgomery County, Ohio hereby adopts and then accepts and adopts the following policies that have been codified for inclusion in the handbook of policies, rules, and regulations, file GBH, also JM, file GBT, file GBU, GCB-2, GCBBB, GCD, and GM, also GBH. I move that we adopt these policies. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any comment?
I have some questions, Madam President.
Go ahead.
Last month, I raised some concerns about these policies, and I asked that board members explicitly be included in these policies. They were brought up for a second vote last week. I raised those same concerns again, and I was asked to bring those concerns to the president in writing, which is not president of the board. Madam President, did you receive my email with the objections and the request to take that back to policy committee by my email?
I did receive your email. My response was to you that, similar to other things, when the policies are put out there, you can pull them to be voted on secondly, and you could also file an amendment to any of them to include the specific language that you are stating, since the policy committee has already reviewed.
So you're saying that even though you told me to give you my objections and concerns in writing, you are not taking it back to policy committee?
Correct, because one, I cannot do that unilaterally. The committee has already voted. At this juncture, as I told you in writing as well, you can put an amendment out for the specific language. The board could accept it. It could be voted down, or it could be voted to go back.
So you moved the goalposts last week and you're moving them again?
Again, do whatever you feel is next, Jocelyn. I've told you the thing. I cannot unilaterally, the same way you cannot unilaterally make a decision for the board. I can't do that.
So I would like to note in public that in my email, I asked that board members explicitly be included in these policies, and all similar policies in the future include board members, and make it standard as it is in other districts in Ohio. These updated policies will not be retroactive, and I would request that our attorneys be part of that conversation as well to talk about the legal liability and get their input on precedent on policies such as this. I would also like to strongly object that the objections be in writing, since that is not board policy. And I would like to move that for the following policies, GBH, also JM, Staff Student Relations, file GBU, Relationships and Fraternization, and file JM, also GBH, Staff Student Relations, that the amendment be put in those three policies, and if you want, I can make this separately for each of the three. The following phrase be inserted. For the purposes of this policy, staff means administrators, professional and classified staff, as well as board members, agents, or persons subject to the control and supervision of the board. That is my motion.
Okay, so you're filing a motion.
I am filing a motion to amend all three policies to include the phrase for purposes of this policy, and I can email this to the secretary.
Can we start with, let's pull those ones to be voted separately? And then to put an amendment on there? Is that possible for you?
I withdraw the initial motion to do that in the future, yes.
Okay. And you want to pull?
I make a motion to pull the following three policies.
You don't have to make a motion. You just have to pull, state the one.
I would,
Yeah.
then I will pull these three policies to be voted on separately,
Okay.
individually.
Can you state them again, just to make sure the treasurer has them?
GBH, GBU, and JM.
Okay. Any other questions or anything else? You got those, Madam Treasurer?
GBH, GBU, and GCB?
No, JM is the third one.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right, did you have a question? You look like you was
No, I was just going to clarify, we're voting on GBT, GBU. No, I'm sorry, GBT, GCB2, GCBBB, and GCD.
Correct. Go ahead, Board Member Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. Quick question, and you or parliamentarian or somebody, or Ms. Kidd even, I need to know, what is the process if a board member wants to send something back to policy? How do you do that again?
By vote.
By a vote?
Correct, because the
Yeah.
policy sent it up to the board at that point.
Because the policy committee has already voted on it, then
Correct.
we would have to vote to send it back to policy.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other question on the motion on the floor? Madam Treasurer, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Okay, and so this is the one where you make your amendment.
Actually, given the question that Board Member Sampson just asked, I would like to move to send these 3 policies back to Policy Committee as requested in my email earlier for reconsideration in the Policy Committee, also with our legal counsel present to talk about precedent and legal liabilities of the district. That is a motion.
Second.
Moved in second, any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
No.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
No.
Dr. Pickett,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
6 yeses, no, 5 yeses, and 2 no.
All right. So I want to really thank our transportation team, because I think we had one of the best starts to our year regarding transportation. Even the online chatter was not as much as we've seen in the past, and our drivers, our pairs, our routers, everyone involved in the process over there has been highly engaged and very active of making sure that we started out on a good foot, and I think they are hitting it right on the ball. Yes, we still have some improvement to come, but I think that they are really on the right track there. I want to thank our teams in the buildings. That's from everyone from the administration to the teachers to the custodians to support staff. It was a collaborative effort on day one, even community members, which I've seen the amount of clap-ins that were throughout the area, and 6:45 is super early, and kudos to every person that made that 6:45 clap-in, because you guys are real MVPs. I did not make that 6:45 clap-in, but I gave a like on Facebook for everybody who did. I sure did. Like, I was, ooh-wee, that's good. I think that I want to give kudos to Dr. Lawrence, because he and his entire team pulled off an impractical task with less than 3 weeks? 3 weeks to get us to this point of where we are, where you see spirits are high right now, individuals are engaged, and everybody is actively trying to be successful in what they're doing. I hope that we continue to move forward and we continue to actively try to be successful as a team. I hope that there aren't individuals who wish sabotaging on us or who wish bad vibes on us at all. I think our team is on day 2, even still, looking at the momentum out there, I think we're still hitting it on that point right there. I do want to also give a really big shout out to the transportation and IT team for the work that they put together on kind of our way that we're trying to help parents be able to see where their children are and locate them in real time. And I think that is one of the next really big things that's coming from us. I think that's huge. I do hope people come out, like, we are opening the stadium on Thursday, and the Thurgood Marshall Cougars have the pleasure of being our first game of the season, and I think it's gonna be a great time. Everyone gets to see our investment into the district and what we're really trying to bring forward to give urban children a place that makes them feel like they belong, that makes them see themselves going beyond their time here, and that just lets them know that they are as good as anyone in any other district and they can compete on those levels. I'm excited to see our bands come out when we get to that point, because I cannot wait just to see the atmosphere that we're trying to build as a collective of what's happening at the stadium. I mean, it really is the event of the season right now, of just being in there and seeing the games that we have going on. I wanna thank our treasury team. They've done a lot of behind the scenes work to really work on the budget with departments. And I think the collaboration has been at an all-time high of making sure that we're not only meeting the needs of our employees when it comes to things that they need to be successful, but we're actually spending in a way that makes more sense of success for our district. I think other than that, I'm excited. Thank you guys. I already said that. I said them in the whole thing. Thank you though. But I'll give another shout out to the custodian staff that made sure on day one, every building was spick and span, ready to go, and just giving people the best version of ourselves as a district. I'll say with that, I believe that's everything I have. But again, I will say, I want to follow up on a comment that Vice President Smith made regarding how our kids really cling to that gift of those hoodies. And I'm really going to ask the board, are we going to do something for our freshmen and our students that transferred in? Because that level of school pride, I haven't seen replicated here. So are we going to, when we get to that point where we truly know our enrollment, because, shout out to the enrollment team that on Friday processed over 200 students coming into the district. Real MVPs over there, and they're continuing to make that happen. But yes, board members.
They were here Sunday too.
And here Sunday, working all weekend on getting people in, because 200 plus people come there and enroll the day before school, in case people didn't know that, doors always open. But yeah, so my question to the board, are we going to do something similar for our entering freshman class, as well as our transfer students that were not in last year's collective of receiving a piece of a district clothing or anything like that?
Madam President, if I may.
Mhm.
The objections that were raised last school year, if I recall correctly, were about the process with which the hoodies were purchased. There was not transparency about why the purchase was made. I'm not sure whether there was enough time to do it properly and do it with competitive bids in mind, and making sure that it is a process that is done with the will of the entire board and not just a handful of board members. I am open to making this discussion happen in a board meeting as long as we are doing it to adhere with best practices in Sunshine.
Anyone else? So I hope that we do, at our next board meeting, move forward with actually making sure, because I don't know what the date is for knowing our true enrollment. Is it September or in October? So at least after Labor Day, we should be able to make a decision on if we're going to do something to keep going that momentum with our students the same way every district around us has sent them welcome packets when they enrolled. And I mean, we're still a little bit behind, but I do hope that we do something for our students to show them that we are excited that they're here and that they feel like they're a part of something bigger. So with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second. Any questions? All right, seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Sampson.
Yes.
Ms. Wick.
Yes.
Dr. Pickett. Yes. Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Adjourn.